Welcome to a world where the best potions aren't found in a guild, but a humble little shop called Merry Drug. Business is clearly too good because the shopkeeper has to tell yet another customer that her stock is wiped out. The disappointed adventurer heads out, leaving the granny alone with her mysterious business partner who is hiding in the back. She tells him he should probably stop being so shy, but he is not convinced. This is our boy Shin, the mastermind behind the medicine. He is dead set on staying anonymous because he knows that once his face is public, his quiet life is over. Granny doesn't hold back on the praise, reminding him that his work is light years ahead of the official Alchemists Guild. Every adventurer in town is desperate for a taste of his high-quality crafting. She gets a little too curious and tries to fish for his secret recipe. Shin just stays cool and keeps his mouth shut. He gives her a quiet shush, reminding her that a pro never reveals his trade secrets. But his mysterious vibe is instantly ruined when someone starts screaming right outside the door. It looks like some drama is popping off in the street. An angry knight is losing his mind because someone spilled ketchup on his fancy cape. Shin peers out at the commotion, wondering what all the noise is about. Granny mentions that the kid getting yelled at just started working at the shop across the street yesterday. Granny panics and asks if he is really just going to let that happen. Shin just waves her off, making it clear he has zero interest in getting dragged into some street drama. Back in the street, the poor kid is practically begging for his life. The knight ignores the apology and decides he would rather just swing his sword instead. Just as the knight goes for the kill, a muscular hand catches his blade like it is nothing. A mysterious figure steps in, calmly suggesting they should probably just call it a day. This cook is not playing games. He crushes the knight's wrist and asks if he wants to be grilled like one of his skewers. The knight decides he is not that brave after all and books it out of there as fast as he can. The cook watches him go, but then something in the crowd catches his eye. It is a small world because this cook immediately recognizes our boy. He shouts out Shin's name, wondering why he is not wearing his signature weird hat today. The shop boy bows so low his head might hit the floor while shouting his thanks. Over at the skewer stall, the night market vibe is in full swing. Shin just wants to eat his snacks in peace and keep a low profile. The cook laughs and calls out our boy for being as cold as ever. Things get real when the kid reveals he is actually a rookie adventurer. The cook is legitimately stunned while Shin keeps his focus strictly on his drink. The cook gives him some props for starting so young, but the kid just scratches his head with a bashful smile. He admits he was trying to save up for a high-tier potion, but they are way out of his price range. His eyes light up as he talks about his dream of becoming a legend like the hero who soloed the Dragon of Disaster. He is clearly aiming for the stars. Shin gives a deadpan response and says whatever, which leaves the boy completely stunned. When the kid asks Shin if he is also an adventurer, the cook just loses it and laughs at the idea. With a completely straight face, Shin drops a massive bombshell while chewing his food. He casually looks the kid in the eye and tells him that he is a reincarnator. The kid is still reeling from that reincarnation bombshell when the cook tells him his meal is on the house. He suddenly realizes he is late for his shift and bolts back to work before his boss catches him. The cook thinks the rookie is a nice kid, but Shin is not looking for friends. He just wants to focus on his chemistry and keep a low profile while the boy disappears into the night. The mood shifts when the cook mentions some shady news about fake potions spreading through the town. This actually gets a reaction out of Shin for once. Apparently, a group is selling low-quality trash as premium gear, and the cook warns Shin that lone wolf types are prime targets. He tells our boy to keep his guard up because things are getting dangerous lately. None of that drama concerns Shin as long as he has his snacks. He tells the cook that he is not interested and goes right back to his meal. Back at the shop, the boy is stuck on dish duty while his boss screams at him to work faster. He finally heads outside to take out the trash, but a loud commotion down the street stops him in his tracks. A massive crowd has gathered around a flashy salesman in a white coat. The guy is giving a high-energy pitch about how potions are the most important part of any journey. The potion seller stabs his own arm to prove a point, claiming his brew beats anything from the guild. In a cloud of smoke, the wounds vanish instantly. He holds up 3 fingers and offers a limited-time deal of 3 silver coins for adventurers. Doubts begin to fade as the group considers if these are legitimate. Our boy looks on, wondering if the high price is worth the security. Recognition spreads as people spot the high-rank Apothecary symbol and dragon skin on his hat. This dude clearly has the credentials to back up his claims. A heavy silence hangs over the crowd before a buying frenzy erupts. Everyone starts shouting their orders at once, and our boy joins in with a request for 20 bottles. Shoving his way to the front, our boy shouts for a set of his own. He is ready to commit his savings to secure these potions for his journey. Rain begins to fall over the local bounty board. A new request for a D-rank rock wolf is pinned up, marking the next target for a rookie. Deep in the woods, the boy tracks his target for the official D-rank quest. If he pulls this off, he finally becomes a certified adventurer. Things go south immediately when the rock wolf ambushes him. It is a total mismatch, leaving him wounded and cornered in seconds. Backing away in a panic, he remembers his secret weapon. He pulls out the expensive potion, betting his entire life on its promised power. The miracle never happens. Instead of a boost, his body just quits on him and he faceplants into the dirt, paralyzed and helpless. He watches the beast move in for the kill. The world narrows down to those sharp teeth and his own heartbeat. Elsewhere, a storm breaks out over the city. Lightning cracks across the sky as the rain turns the streets into a ghost town. The cook is ready to call it a night, but Shin spots a figure in the distance. Someone is limping through the storm, looking like they just crawled out of hell. The shop boy collapses in the rain right in front of the food stall. Shin and the cook are stunned as he hits the ground with a heavy thud. The cook rushes over to check on the kid while Shin starts shouting orders. They need hot water and clean tools right now because a doctor will never make it through this storm in time. Shin takes charge and decides to brew a custom potion right there on the spot. He is not taking any chances with the boy's life. Shin is a blur of motion as he grinds ingredients and mixes powders with surgical precision. The crowd watches in confusion while the cook begs the boy to hang on just a little longer. Shin stays locked in, while the cook promises the kid that he is in good hands. The mixture is finally complete, and it is time for the moment of truth. Our boy Shin gently helps the kid drink the medicine. The boy takes a slow gulp as everyone holds their breath to see if this actually works. Steam begins to pour off the boy as the potion takes effect. The crowd watches in awe as the massive gashes on his body start to stitch themselves back together in seconds. Shin finally exhales as the kid stabilizes, telling the crew to let him rest well. The nearby workers scramble to carry the boy somewhere safe while he recovers from the ordeal. The cook suddenly holds up a vial with a skull icon and calls for Shin. This is the fake potion sample that caused all this mess, and it is the only evidence they have left. Looking at the unconscious boy, the reality of the situation hits home. One shady bottle was all it took to nearly end his life. Our boy is done playing nice and asks his uncle for the location of the secret hideout. The cook is surprised by the sudden change of heart but offers to use his vendor network to sniff them out. Elsewhere, a massive ship sits at the docks, while the sound of gold fills the air. The scammers are busy counting their easy money and feeling untouchable near the harbor. Inside the hideout, the gang is having the time of their lives celebrating their latest win. They are laughing about their luck and the huge amount of money they just swiped from the locals. The leader watches the chaos from the shadows with a smug grin. He chuckles to himself, thinking that adventurers are the easiest marks in the world. The scammer boss flexes his master plan, laughing about how nobody realized the first potion was his only real batch. His crew is already celebrating their payday, bragging about how much money they made off a stolen hat. One henchman wonders if the victims will hunt them down, but the vibe is too high for worries. With a wicked grin, the leader reveals that his recovery potions were actually designed to paralyze anyone who drank them. Since his marks can't move, they definitely won't be coming back for revenge. The whole gang raises their mugs for a massive toast, already plotting which town they should hit next for easy money. The party mood dies instantly when a voice chimes in from the shadows. Shin strolls right into their hideout like he was invited, catching them completely off guard. Maintaining a calm look, he makes the most unexpected request possible and asks to join their group. The henchmen start panicking, demanding to know who he is and what happened to their guards. Shin just points back at the lookouts, who are already knocked out cold on the floor. Shin stays ice cold as he identifies the man in charge. The potion seller can only stare in disbelief, completely caught off guard by the kid's nerves of steel. Even with multiple blades at his throat, our boy tries to act like a totally innocent bystander. The boss isn't buying it for a second and orders his men to search every single inch of him. While Shin complains about the total lack of hospitality, the scammers tell him to raise his hand. As soon as he does, Shin seizing the perfect moment and tosses a small tube into the air with a smirk. A split second later, the entire room is consumed by a massive blast of thick smoke. The hideout turns into a coughing fit as the henchmen lose their vision in the smog. Through the haze, the boss gets hit with a surprise attack that sends him into a violent rage. Realizing his eyes are useless, the potion seller recognizes the smoke for what it is. He quickly pulls out a secret vial and jams it into his neck to force his senses to evolve. With his hearing supercharged by the serum, the leader's senses go into overdrive. He is done playing games and prepares to hunt Shin down using nothing but the sound of his footsteps. The leader tracks every sound through the haze, sure that his enhanced hearing will give him the edge. He lunges into the smoke with a lethal strike, convinced he has pinned his target down. The blade cuts through nothing but empty air. Shin appears right behind him, casually pointing out the big miss before another desperate swing fails to connect. Confusion takes over as the boss stands alone in the smog. He cannot comprehend how his supercharged senses failed to track a single person. The realization hits too late when Shin appears directly at his back. A cold declaration of checkmate signals the end of the line for the scammer. The boss struggles to breathe, demanding to know how this happened. Shin reveals that the smoke was actually a targeted drug designed to wreck his internal balance. Trying to amplify his hearing only made the toxin more effective. Our MC points out that the boss basically signed his own death warrant by taking that serum. As the leader lies defeated, he finally asks who his opponent really is. Shin just calls himself a simple apothecary while reaching down to reclaim his top hat. Shin adjusts his new hat and makes it clear he does not care about titles, he just won't let some random stranger use his name for a scam. The boss finally puts the pieces together and realizes who he is actually dealing with. Pure terror takes over as the real deal stands right in front of him. While the scammer begs for mercy, Shin just cracks his knuckles. Messing with his future customer base is a sin he is not willing to overlook. Shin pulls out a special gift and calls it an extra recovery potion. The boss looks like he's seen a ghost when he realizes it's actually one of his own fake poisons. A blast rocks the hideout in the middle of the night. The screams of the scammers echo through the harbor as everything comes crashing down. Word spreads fast that the fake potion gang finally got what was coming to them. Someone dumped the whole crew right in front of the vigilante base for a nice reward. Back in town, everyone is talking about the fake potion bust. The skewer's cook congratulates Shin on getting his name back while the shop boy comes running over to find him. The shop boy is finally back on his feet and can't stop bowing. He is desperate to pay Shin back for saving his life, while the skewer cook looks on with a grin. Shin hits him with a price tag of 300 large gold coins. The poor kid looks like his soul just left his body. It is all a joke though. Our MC tells him he can settle the debt once he becomes the top-notch, first-class adventurer he has always dreamed of. The kid spots a unique mark on the apothecary's hat and realizes he is in the presence of a legend. Shin does not wait for a reaction and just waves goodbye. He yells his promise to become the best ever, but Shin just wants some peace and quiet. He tells the boy to stop being so loud before the whole town hears him. Somewhere far away, a pair of mysterious eyes are watching the whole scene through a crystal ball. They are surprised to see Shin actually going out of his way to help someone. One of the women wonders if he is finally getting comfortable in this new world. She smiles while calling him her favorite reincarnator. A white hawk glides over the northern forest of Bolivia, a pair of owls sitting on a massive tiger. A glint of light catches the eye in the morning sun. A scout keeps a close watch through his binoculars, noting that it is 8 in the morning and the target is still a no-show. The scout reports that there is no sign of movement yet. His partner is already annoyed, wondering why they have to be stuck in such a remote forest. This dude is questioning everything, wondering if the bosses picked this deep forest just to stay off the radar and avoid catching anyone's attention. His leader shuts him down immediately. He says their intentions are irrelevant, and they just need to stick to the plan and follow orders. The scout suddenly freezes when he spots a figure in the distance. The target is finally in sight. Unaware she is being watched, the adventurer finds a sticky mark on a tree. She realizes she has accidentally wandered into a forest viper's territory and needs to bail immediately. She freezes in her tracks as the giant predator finally comes into view. This thing is way bigger than she expected. Luckily, the forest viper is out cold, snoring like a freight train. These B-rank monsters usually crush their prey before finishing them off with a venomous bite. She is stunned to find the beast asleep, but that is nothing compared to what she sees next. Our boy is just sitting on the snake's back, humming while he harvests rare herbs. He looks up in confusion when she suddenly lunges forward to drag him away. She is in a panic, asking him what he could possibly be thinking. After getting to a safe distance, she takes a second to ask who he even is. She is just glad the noise didn't wake the monster up. She insists they need to leave because B-rank monsters are dangerous even for teams. Shin just adjusts his hat and tells her not to worry, since he drugged the snake himself. He points out that the best herbs always grow near dangerous nests. To him, the giant predator was just a convenient place to sit while he worked. The peace and quiet ends the moment that giant eye snaps open. Shin does not seem to care, but the vibe has shifted from a cozy herb hunt to a disaster. The viper rears up and is clearly ready to strike. Shin wonders if he messed up the sedative dose, while the girl decides it is time to haul tail. This snake is looking for a meal and begins the chase through the thick forest. Every tree in its path gets flattened as it lunges after the targets. Sprinting blindly is never a good idea, and they are heading straight for trouble. Shin tries to get her to change course, but she is too busy screaming to hear him. They take a literal leap of faith right off the side of a cliff. It is a massive drop, but the ground is coming up fast. A tiny branch is the only thing keeping them from the abyss. Up top, the viper is still trying to figure out where its dinner went. The wood snaps, and it is back to free-falling through the air. Shin stays perfectly calm and even enjoys the view before they hit the water with a splash. They finally crawl out of the water and find a quiet spot on the riverbank to dry off. Iris wrings out her soaked gear while yelling at the MC to stay in his lane. He brushes her off with a tired response, making her wonder who this guy even is. He empties his top hat, which is somehow filled with water and fish, while the fire crackles nearby. He casually introduces himself as a wandering apothecary named Shin. She finally calms down enough to introduce herself as Eris, a ranger. She starts venting about how her party disbanded and she got lost in the woods alone. Our boy just listens as she lets out all the stress from the day. Eris asks to buy some potions since hers broke in the fall, but the cost is a major shock. He drops a price tag of 30 gold coins, which is way more than she can afford. She accuses him of highway robbery, but he does not budge. He explains that cheap potions get people killed, and he has no interest in selling junk that does not work. Eris stares in stunned silence as the MC lays down some harsh truth. He tells her that if she cannot tell the difference between courage and being reckless, her only future is a quick death. She decides to take his advice to heart and offers up an earring to trade for the potions. Shin looks surprised by the sudden offer of collateral. It is a precious heirloom from her mother, but Eris is willing to part with it to stay alive. Our boy takes one look at the gem and realizes he is holding something high quality. He double-checks if she is really okay with trading such a valuable item. She does not hesitate, agreeing that her life is far more important than any piece of jewelry. With the sun starting to set, she realizes she needs to hustle back to the safety of town. She knows her mother would be much angrier about her dying than losing an earring. Shin casually waves goodbye and mentions he has an orc to hunt for a local cook. Eris is left in a total panic, still trying to get her clothes on as he starts to walk away. She screams at him for being crazy enough to fight a monster without a real weapon. He just keeps strolling into the forest without a single worry. She decides letting him wander off alone is a bad move. She is officially joining the squad. He hits her with a look of pure lack of interest. She calls him out for looking like he would rather be anywhere else. He tells her not to stress because he has a plan. When she asks for details, he just smirks and mentions a secret trump card. During the trek, he decides to get personal. He asks what kind of person her mother was, catching her off guard. She drops a heavy truth bomb, explaining she never actually knew her mom. She was an abandoned baby found with nothing but that earring. Because of that, she just chooses to treat the jewelry as a memento. She offers a small laugh to mask the awkwardness. Things get quiet until her ears suddenly twitch. She signals for him to shut up before he can even finish his question. Eris points out their target in the clearing ahead. Down below, a massive orc is chilling on a bed of skulls while licking a bone. This pig monster is a D-rank threat with a reputation for eating anything that breathes. It crushes a thick bone in its jaws like it is a light snack. Eris is practically vibrating with fear at the sight of the beast. Our boy Shin is just staring at all that marbled fat and thinking about how delicious it will taste. He tells her to just stick to the plan before disappearing into the brush. She is left cursing him under her breath and frantically calling for him to wait. She sprints into the clearing, screaming at the top of her lungs. The orc looks up from its meal, completely caught off guard by the noisy snack that just delivered itself. The monster lets out a creepy laugh as it starts stomping toward her. She plays the part of the helpless victim perfectly, begging it to stay away. "Just kidding," she says with a smirk, smashing a potion at its feet and vanishing into a cloud of smoke. The smoke works like a charm. While the big guy is busy hacking up a lung, Eris does not waste a second and bolts. She knows this is her only shot to put some distance between them. Shin previously laid out the ground rules. He told her to lure the beast toward a specific marked tree and get some height. She starts the climb, but the doubt is already creeping in. She spots the massive arrow carved into the bark and tries to reassure herself. This is the spot, but the pressure is definitely mounting. Just as she thinks she is safe, a massive hand clamps down on her ankle. The monster caught up way faster than expected and is laughing at her struggle. The grip tightens and she kicks out wildly to break free. She manages to land a solid hit, but the pain is real. Every second counts as she desperately tries to haul herself out of reach. After a frantic scramble, she finally makes it to a high branch and tries to catch her breath. She starts scanning the area, screaming for Shin to show his face. Only silence greets her. The guy who came up with this crazy plan is nowhere to be found, leaving her high and dry in the middle of a monster encounter. Eris is absolutely losing it, convinced her backup just ditched her. She looks back to see the monster closing in on the fallen tree, and the panic really starts to set in. The beast is already tasting its victory while Eris looks every which way for a way out. She is backed into a corner with nowhere left to run. A dark realization of what happens to losers hits her, and she decides she is not going out like that. She draws her bow with shaky hands, ready to go down swinging. Out of nowhere, Shin pops up on a nearby branch and tells her to jump. She does not hesitate for a single second and launches herself into the open air. He catches her with ease, giving her a quick compliment on the landing. The monster watches them from across the gap, its massive weight making the entire tree groan. Eris is worried the beast will just leap over, but Shin is cool as a cucumber. He grips a rope and tells her that every single part of this was according to plan. Shin takes a leap of faith, diving off the branch with his rope in hand. He drops toward the ground as a heavy sound echoes through the woods. Our boy hangs from the ropes and watches the beast lose its balance. Isn't today a perfect day to fall down like that? he mocks with a grin. The monster takes a massive dive into a pit trap with a world-shaking crash. Shin drops down a second later, planting his boot right on its head to seal the deal. Eris can barely look as she watches the beast suffer. Shin pulls out a small bottle, explaining that the monster is only in this mess because of the special potion it drank. This brew was a total trap, designed to supercharge senses like a dangerous dose of doping. It is the last thing anyone should be using in the middle of a serious fight. The side effects are the real nightmare, turning the monster's pain sensitivity up to the max. At this point, even a light breeze probably feels like a death blow. Shin casually asks Eris if she has a knife before getting straight to work. He puts the beast out of its misery with a quick, clinical stab that leaves Eris speechless. Eris is completely stunned by how easy the hunt turned out to be. Shin just shrugs it off, saying that since he is not a ranger, he has no interest in fighting fair or making things messy. Eris is already fuming. Our boy just hits her with a dry question about her pride as an adventurer. Shin remembers something and tosses a little gift her way. It is a reward for her help with the big hunt. She stares at the pendant in her hand, her face lighting up. A soft thank you is all she can manage as she treasures the gift. The peaceful moment is shattered by a sudden ambush. Armored warriors surround them with weapons drawn, yelling for them to stay put. The bowman sounds rattled by the extra person, but the leader tells him to keep it together. No big deal, apparently. Eris ducks behind Shin, asking if he knows these guys. He does not, but he can tell right away these are not just some random thugs. The leader cuts straight to the chase. He is looking for someone named Shin, and the vibe just got a lot more intense. Our boy gives him the cold shoulder, asking who he even is. The leader is not having it, flatly refusing to give up any info. Shin decides to match that energy with a massive amount of disrespect. He sticks his tongue out, telling the leader he is not talking either. The guy just stares him down, realizing negotiations are officially over. The mood shifts instantly as the leader draws his sword. He figures if Shin won't talk, maybe he will let his blade do the questioning. Eris gets ready for a fight while Shin stays eerily calm. He takes a second to process the situation, suddenly remembering something important about these guys. Shin casually drops a bomb about an Imperial ship arriving at the harbor recently. The mention of the Empire catches the leader completely off guard. That one comment is all the proof the leader needs. He locks onto Shin with a lethal gaze, confirming that this is the man they are looking for. Shin watches them closely, starting to piece together who he is actually dealing with. The archer is already losing his cool, screaming about finishing him off right here. The Empire's army closes the net, turning the clearing into a kill zone. Arrows fly as the whole squad moves in, but our boy isn't even flinching. He just locks in and admits that things are finally getting interesting. Elsewhere, the night market is in full swing. Our shop boy is finally back on his feet and catching up with his favorite skewer cook. The big guy is glad to see the recovery, but the kid is already asking where his savior went. The cook breaks the news while flipping more meat. Shin is currently soloing orcs in the northern forest. Our boy can hardly believe his ears, realizing just how different the master really is. Cut to the northern forest under a silver moon. The vibe is heavy as Shin and Eris find themselves in a high-stakes clash. They are being hunted by a squad of professional killers. Shin locks in on the enemy. He recognizes the markings and knows he is dealing with the Imperial army. This forest hunt just turned into a war zone. Arrows rain down as Shin dances through the danger. He fires back with a hidden gadget, but the squad leader brushes it off like a fly. This guy is built different. Our boy decides to switch tactics. He drops a heavy smoke bomb to cloud their vision. The soldiers are left scanning the fog, hoping to catch a glimpse of their target. The leader cuts through the gray without hesitation. He predicts the escape and slams Shin into the dirt. Just like that, the tables have turned. Lewis lands a brutal kick that sends our boy tumbling through the dirt. Eris screams out in horror, but the commander is actually impressed that the kid has enough guts to keep standing. The vibe takes a dark turn as Lewis starts taunting Eris with a creepy promise to take his time with her later. Meanwhile, the archer keeps his bow drawn from the rocks, waiting for the perfect moment to end it. Eris isn't about to play the damsel in distress and warns them not to underestimate her just because she's a girl. The archer doesn't care about the talk, leaping to a new vantage point to keep the pressure on. Arrows start whistling through the air as the scout tries to pin her down. Eris is forced into a desperate dance, barely managing to evade the high-speed projectiles as the forest turns into a war zone. Lewis moves in for the finishing blow, aiming to take one of Shin's arms first. Seeing the opening, Eris tosses a hidden item across the field to her partner just before the blade connects. A loud clang rings out as the commander's sword hits something solid. Shin manages to catch a massive orc tusk mid-air and use it as a shield, leaving Louis completely stunned by the improvised block. Our MC is just relieved to have both arms intact after that close call. Eris has already switched back to greed mode though, begging for the valuable tusk because she knows it will fetch a massive price at the market. The enemy squad is losing it as the toxin takes effect. One of them spits in disgust while Axel realizes his vision is failing him because of a poison he does not recognize. Trying to keep his cool, Axel lectures about the power of team coordination. He thinks they can still turn this around if they work together. A sudden rustling in the dense foliage cuts the pep talk short. Axel breaks into a cold sweat as the vibe in the forest turns deadly in an instant. The ground shakes as a massive serpent lunges out and swallows Axel in a single gulp. Our boy and the remaining soldiers can only watch in horror as their comrade disappears. Pure terror grips the group as the giant predator looms over them. Eris screams out the name of the beast, realizing they are facing a legendary forest viper. Shin is not interested in being the next course on the menu. He grabs Eris by the hand and starts a desperate dash to get as much distance as possible. The remaining hunters are left shell-shocked while the massive viper looks down on them with total disdain. It lets out a dismissive hump as it prepares for its next move. The forest viper locks on with a cold stare before lunging for a massive chomp. Eris barely manages to vault out of the way while Lewis curses their luck. Taking the opening, our duo disappears into the dense forest to leave the soldiers to their fate. Lewis realizes this fight is a wash and orders a full retreat. His squad hauls it out of there as the legendary serpent towers over the battlefield, letting out a final hiss of dominance. Back at the river, Shin takes a moment to splash some water on his face and steady his nerves. Eris is right there with him, huffing and puffing after that frantic sprint for survival. Eris looks up at the birds overhead, trying to figure out why a high-rank monster would just show up. Shin doesn't skip a beat, casually revealing that the whole encounter was triggered by a special potion he tossed into the mix. He explains he spiked the potion with some tasty fruit extract that vipers love. He then admits he skipped the deodorant needed to hide their own scent, leaving Eris absolutely stunned by his chaotic logic. Passing by a scenic waterfall, our MC tries to justify the plan by saying it was better than a direct brawl. Eris is not having it and starts screaming, reminding him that being eaten alive was a very real possibility. He keeps on walking, casually dropping the fact that the whole ship's story was just a lie to bait the soldiers. Eris can only stare in pure disbelief as her partner strolls away like he did not just gamble both their lives. Shin suspects the intruders are Imperial soldiers, making Eris question their true motives. Eris points out the current ceasefire, but Shin knows the piece is thin after what happened 6 years ago. Back then, the Empire wiped a vital port city off the map, leaving both sides in a state of mutual hatred. While Shin tries to piece the puzzle together, he realizes Eris has vanished beneath the surface of the water. He scrambles to pull her out of the river as she struggles for air. The vibe is pure desperation as he begs her to wake up. Scene jump. The trauma is long gone as Eris focuses all her energy on devouring some skewers. Missy is crushing those skewers and calling for rounds 3 and 4. The cook loves the energy, but our MC is just sitting there wishing he was anywhere else. Shin asks if she was just starving this whole time. Eris admits she has not had a single bite since last night, so she is making up for lost time. The cook starts teasing Shin for being a playboy and finding a gorgeous girl in the woods, which has Eris blushing hard. Our boy is losing it on the side, screaming about how annoying this situation has become. Things get a bit more serious as the cook wonders why Imperial soldiers would be prowling around the northern forest. The shop boy brings up the ceasefire, but the old man reminds him that peace on paper does not mean they are actually friends. Shin asks if there has been any news on the Empire's movements lately. The cook does not have a clue but suggests checking with the other stall owners in the area. Iris takes a drink and casually mentions she is actually hunting for something specific in that forest. She whips out a flyer to show them what she is really after. The shop boy asks why a ranger like her was wandering around the dangerous northern forest. Eris casually takes a sip and mentions she is actually from a place called Otwal. She pulls out a flyer for a gigant boar pelt request with a massive 100 gold coin reward. The cook and the shop boy are losing their minds over the payout. Shin just sits there with his typical deadpan expression, looking completely unimpressed. Eris explains that it is a resource-gathering quest rather than a hunt, so the difficulty is off the charts. She adds that the reward can even climb to 150 gold if the quality is top tier. The group starts dreaming big about what they would do with all that cash. The cook wants a restaurant in the capital. The boy wants new armor, and Eris just wants to eat every ice cream flavor on the planet. Our MC shuts down the hype immediately by saying he is not interested. He thinks the hunt is way too much trouble. And even worse, the meat tastes like trash. The cook realizes Shin is exactly the kind of food snob he suspected. Meanwhile, the others are stunned that he has actually eaten a giant boar before. The cook drops the big question about that orc meat, and our boy nearly chokes on his drink. Bargaining with a monster fang does not work out at all. The cook wants the actual order, not some random bone. Strolling through town, he checks his pouch only to find nothing but dust. The walk home is looking long and depressing. Eris ditches the group and leaves him with the tab. The cook is not letting him off the hook for those unpaid bills either. Stepping inside his shop, a simple leaf on the floor signals a trap. A heavy blow sends him to the ground where soldiers are already waiting. His vision clears just enough to see he has been bound to a chair. A stern voice asks if he is finally awake. He glares at his captors and asks how they found his home. They reveal an informant gave up everything, including his address. Lewis points a finger at the bound apothecary, demanding he hand over the recipe for that special potion. Word of the miracle drug has reached the Empire, and they want that power to make their Imperial army invincible. Shin meets his gaze with a defiant glare, asking what happens if he just refuses to cooperate. A soldier slams a blade into the boy's legs, screaming at him to stop making this difficult. Splatter from the impact paints a gruesome picture as Shin lets out a frantic cry. Twisting the knife deep into the leg, the crazed soldier promises they only need the recipe and do not care about his life. He lets out a manic laugh while reveling in the terror he is causing. Stepping forward with a cold offer, the leader promises that cooperation leads to being treated like an honored guest, while the apothecary struggles to catch his breath. A blade is held inches from the apothecary's face as he is given a final choice to join the Empire, or rot with his kingdom. Shin just glares back with eyes full of silent fury. A mouthful of spit is his only answer to their threats. The lead soldier is stunned into a daze while the others keep shouting for the kid to stay awake. He is not backing down even while tied up. He mocks them for being incompetent and tells them to go back home empty-handed. The soldier finally snaps and drives a blade deep into the boy's leg. He's done playing games and is ready to deliver a slow and painful end. He uses the moment of chaos to slash through his ropes and drop to the floor. The soldiers can only watch in shock as their prize suddenly gains his freedom. Reaching for his stash, he hurls a glass vial with everything he's got. The bottle shatters right against the soldier's head in a spray of dangerous fluid. That experimental poison starts smoking and burning right through the goon's skin. Our boy limps away into the alley, clutching his bleeding leg as he struggles to stay upright. He grabs a fallen branch to use as a makeshift club. Even with a crippled leg, he refuses to keep running and prepares for one last stand. The soldier charges forward, mocking the boy for being a lowly apothecary. Our boy just smirks and reaches for his stash, reminding the guy that healers have their own way of handling a fight. He's done playing around and promises to cut off all limbs so there's no chance to resist. A loud shatter echoes through the air as the liquid hits the target. Shin stands his ground with a single branch while the surroundings break into jagged pieces. Shocked by the loss of his blade, the soldier can only stare as it falls to pieces. Shin casually explains that his hardening potion turns anything it touches into brittle diamond instantly. One heavy impact sends the soldier face first into the ground. The force is enough to leave a crater in the cobblestones. The diamond shards start to crumble away as the effect fades. Shin takes a seat next to the unconscious body and enjoys the spring breeze. Back in town, the local skewer cook is finally taking a break. He lights up and enjoys the quiet afternoon while the streets remain empty. The skewer cook looks down at the captive Imperial soldier tied to the tree. Shin claps his hands and confirms this is the Imperial army they were talking about. Cook asks if they should just hand these guys over to the kingdom. Shin has other plans and wants to know exactly who sold him out to the Empire first. Shin asks if the Empire is planning to break the peace treaty. The soldier just glares back and starts chanting in a strange ancient tongue. Shin is completely lost as the guy keeps babbling. Surprisingly, the cook recognizes the dialect from his old trading days in the Empire. Shin remarks that his friend is clearly no ordinary cook. The cook fires back that Shin is obviously much more than just a local apothecary. Shin waits for the translation of the cryptic message. The cook takes a puff of his smoke and explains that these guys only care about completing their mission. The soldier looks ready to die for his cause. According to him, everything is powerless in the face of some greater power. Shin pulls out a vial with a devious smirk, ready to let his potions do the talking. The cook steps in and asks to handle the interrogation himself this time. The soldier trembles as a dark shadow looms over him. It turns out the cook is also hungry for revenge over his ruined orc meat. Iris comes running over just as the screams of the Imperial soldiers echo through the woods. Shin casually explains that the old man is taking care of business while they catch up. Iris can't believe her eyes as she checks out the damage to Shin's clothes. Seeing him standing tall after a solo fight leaves her completely speechless and blushing. Out of nowhere, she reaches out a hand and makes a big proposal. She wants them to officially form a party and start working together. Our boy doesn't even hesitate to shut her down. He reminds her that he is just a simple apothecary with zero interest in the adventurer life. Iris isn't taking no for an answer and offers up all the loot as a bribe. Shin is left scratching his head at why she is being so persistent. Shin is out of the loop on her motivations. He asks why she cares so much about hunting a giant boar, while the atmosphere turns heavy. The truth finally comes out as she explains that the monster took her family. She asks for his help to get her revenge. Stopping by the local guild, Iris drops an absolute bombshell on the staff. The clerk is actually shaking when she asks to take on the gigant boar request all by herself. He tells her to hold on a sec and slams the door to go check the records. Crawling out of his hiding spot, Shin looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. He makes it clear that he has zero interest in the guild life, while everyone inside is still screaming in shock. A bunch of high-level adventurers start staring them down from the background. Shin doesn't care and explains that he isn't even a registered adventurer in the first place. Privacy is everything to our boy. He explains that showing his personal info to the guild is basically the same as leaking all his secret trump cards. Returning with a specialized magic tool, the clerk explains that it is required for communication in the forest. Eris takes it, ready to move out. Watching her walk away, our MC finally realizes that the loot isn't her main goal. All she cares about is taking down that monster and getting her revenge. The clerk is practically sweating bullets when he hears the news. Eris drops the bomb that it is just going to be the two of them taking on the mission. Our boy does not even have a single care in the world as he starts walking out the door. The clerk is screaming his lungs out about how dangerous a C-class monster is, but Shin is already halfway gone. Elsewhere, word is spreading through a nearby camp that someone finally took the quest to hunt the boar. The locals are starting to hope they can finally go back home. Yumiya isn't sharing the hype though. She stares off with a cold look and admits she really hates rangers. Deep in the woods, Eris finds the spring from the witness reports. She spots a massive footprint pressed into the mud. Based on the condition, she guesses the monster was here just a few days ago. While Eris is on high alert, our MC is treating this like a grocery run. He is busy geeking out over all the rare herbs growing in the area. Shin shuts down Eris's suggestion to set the trap right there, pointing out that the forest is a much better spot for their ambush. Logic over everything. Shin explains that a trap at their current spot would ruin the pelt and make transporting the carcass a total nightmare. The plan is to set the trap on a confirmed route and lure the beast out. Eris is skeptical though, and asks the million-dollar question of how they are supposed to bait it. Our boy suggests they serve as the perfect bait. Eris is not having it and drops a physical reality check right on his head. Their comedy routine gets cut short when a blood-curdling scream echoes through the trees. They stumble upon the target. A massive boar is cornering a terrified kid. Eris is ready to go full hero mode to save the boy. Shin holds her back, telling her to chill because he is already cooking up a plan. The kid is shaking like a leaf, but refuses to back down against the massive beast. He tries to look tough with a stick, while the boar lets out a deafening roar. Just as the monster charges for the kill, someone steps in and delivers a massive strike to its side. It looks like the boy's solo stand is officially over. A cloud of dust erupts as Shin and Eris make their entrance. The kid can only stare in confusion as his certain doom suddenly turns into a rescue mission. Shin starts stretching like he is at the gym and drops a weird analogy about trucks and wind. Eris tells the kid to stay back while the boar starts losing its mind from the disrespect. Our boy decides to play the ultimate game of chicken by pretending his shoelaces are untied. The boar takes the bait and charges full speed toward the easy target. The kid is screaming for him to move, but Shin just stands his ground with a smug smile. He has everything exactly where he wants it. The boar goes flying right into a massive pitfall trap. Shin casually stands over the hole and lets everyone know that dinner is served. Shin secures the monster with rope while it screams from the bottom of the hole. Eris finally realizes it was a pitfall trap all along, and our boy casually confirms the win. He breaks down the logic, explaining how boars always jump over logs because of their slippery hooves. Placing a pit exactly where they land makes the capture practically effortless. While he finishes tying the rope, he mentions that a smarter beast might have spotted the trick. Eris is still standing there in disbelief, trying to process the absolute efficiency of the trap. Our MC claps the dust off his hands, thinking the job is done. But the vibe immediately shifts when the kid realizes this isn't even the monster that destroyed his village. Maru explains that the actual threat is on a completely different level. This one is just a small fry compared to the massive beast currently terrorizing the area. Shin takes a breather on the edge of the pit while the kid introduces himself as Maru. The little guy is hype, asking if he was the mastermind behind the crazy trap. Maru is already dragging them toward his village, certain they are the heroes everyone has been waiting for. Shin tries to clear up the misunderstanding, but Eris stays silent as the guilt starts to set in. They arrive at a scene of complete devastation where nothing remains but rubble and a lonely wooden cross. The gray sky hangs heavy over the ruins of a village that was clearly wiped off the map. Shin stares at the wreckage and asks if this was really Ottwald. Maru explains that the villagers moved to the base of the mountain years ago, though he was just a baby when the giant boar destroyed everything. Eris stands silently, her eyes fixed on the parched earth where a river used to flow. Shin notices her heavy gaze and calls out her name, but she is lost in the memory of a dead landscape. She remembers a time when the village entrance was vibrant and blooming with flowers. It was the same spot where she used to play and get in trouble for losing her shoes. Shin asks if she has visited this place before, sensing her deep connection to the ruins. With a bittersweet smile, she admits she was here a long time ago. Eris finally reveals that these ruins are her actual hometown. The somber moment is suddenly shattered when a loud voice screams for Maru. making the kid jump in surprise. Maru breaks down in tears, confessing his dream of using the bounty money to rebuild and return to their original home. Yumiya just sighs in annoyance, clearly done with his emotional outbursts. Yumiya is absolutely losing it on Maru for sneaking into the woods alone. The kid can only offer a muffled apology while she stretches his cheeks in a fit of rage. The scolding stops dead when Yumiya notices a familiar face in the distance. The shock is mutual as Eris and Yumiya lock eyes for the first time in years. Coldly, Yumiya asks what they are even doing there. Maru tries to play peacemaker by explaining they just saved him from a giant boar. But the news doesn't soften her at all. She spits out the word traitor and demands that Eris leaves the village immediately. Eris tries to call out, but Yumiya is already pulling the kid away. The tension breaks instantly when Maru's legs give out and he faints right there on the spot. The kid is in rough shape, sweating through a massive fever. This isn't just a regular cold, it is something much worse. Later that night, the rain pours down on a small tent where the village doctor is doing his best. He looks completely defeated, admitting that none of his medicines are working. The local doctor is entirely out of his depth, admitting that only experts from the capital could stand a chance. Yumiya is left watching her friend fade away with no hope in sight. Shin isn't the type to sit around while a life is on the line. He steps up and takes charge, brushing past the old man to get a real look at the situation. Experience pays off as Shin immediately spots the problem hiding on the kid's waist. This isn't a random fever, it is a localized reaction to a toxic plant called haru. These roots are notorious for growing deep in the dirt. It is pretty clear the kid accidentally dug one up while he was busy setting his traps. Our boy wastes no time and gets to work preparing a high-level antidote. The village doctor can only stand there in stunned silence as a random traveler outclasses him in seconds. When the old man finally asks who this mystery healer is, Shin keeps it casual. He plays the humble card, claiming he is just a passing apothecary who knows a few things. The fever vanishes almost instantly, leaving the kid in a deep and peaceful sleep. While the others are focused on the miracle, Shin is already getting ready to head out. Yumiya is grateful for the help, but Shin keeps it professional. He tips his hat and introduces himself as he prepares to move on. Things get awkward when she asks if he is the boyfriend of Eris, and his soul basically leaves his body. She can tell right away that they already know each other. Yumiya explains that she and Eris actually grew up together in the same orphanage. Now she is the one running the place and taking care of the kids who lost their parents. Shin tells her she is very kind for what she is doing. She just looks away, claiming this is just her own way of atoning for her sins. She reveals that Eris chose to chase her dreams and abandon the village. We see a glimpse of Eris standing alone in the ruins of their old life. A simple drawing of a family is shown before we cut back to the rainy night. Shin accepts an umbrella as payment while Eris falls apart in the mud, sobbing and calling for her sister. Shin walks over and silently holds the umbrella over her. He does not say a word, just provides a bit of cover while she lets all that pain out. Back at the village, the crew is working overtime to build a cart big enough to haul that massive boar. The project lead is sweating bullets, apologizing because they still are not done. Eris gets the word through her communicator that the transport will finally be ready by tomorrow morning. She confirms the traps are all set and now they just have to wait for the target. On the other side of the call, the workers are talking trash, wondering if a low-level ranger is just going to end up dead. Eris is not having the disrespect and shouts back that they are definitely taking that thing down. While she vents her frustration over a massive piece of meat, Shin is busy doing his own thing. He ignores the drama and performs a composition analysis on a large glass flask. Eris stops eating for a second to stare at the glowing bottle. She asks what he is even doing since it does not look like any magic she has seen. Shin tells her this is basically a blessing from a god. When she asks if he actually believes in that stuff, he admits he does not have a clear answer. The conversation turns serious as Eris talks about her and Yumiya being like sisters growing up. Her face falls as she admits that everything was ruined because of her. Eris opens up about her childhood, explaining that she and Yumiya were family in every way that mattered. Back then, she was already a tiny hunter working hard to put food on the table. While Yumiya was struggling to keep up, Eris was already celebrating their next stew. She was a natural protector, even literally carrying her sister home when the day got too rough. A lost shoe meant trouble, but Eris was always there to share the load. These little adventures usually earned them a massive lecture from the head of the orphanage. The forest was off limits, and they were definitely hearing all about it. The scolding never lasted long, though, as a warm meal and a bath were always waiting. Those cozy nights were easily the best part of their childhood. As the lights went out, Eris would share her big dreams of becoming a legendary adventurer. Her main goal was simple. She just wanted to earn enough money to treat her family to a feast every single day. They had no idea they had accidentally stepped into a monster domain while hunting. Back at home, the girls were fast asleep, completely unaware of the threat sniffing right outside their door. A heavy thud jolted Eris awake in the middle of the night. She looked toward the window and froze. seeing a massive bloodshot eye staring right back at her through the bars. The monster let out a deafening roar that shook the entire building. Our girl tried to shield Yumiya, but the room was already filled with their desperate screams. The wall crumbled like paper under the beast power. Their sister stood her ground against the debris, telling Eris to grab Yumiya and run for their lives. With tears streaming down her face, Eris begged to stay, but the sister only gave a final gentle smile, entrusting Yumiya's safety to her. They bolted into the night, their cries for their sister lost in the wind. Behind them, the massive boar loomed over the woman who had raised them. In the end, they lost everything. Their sister and their home were gone, leaving only rows of wooden crosses in a silent graveyard. Sitting by the campfire, Eris blamed herself for everything that went wrong. She believed her weakness was the only reason people got hurt. She explained that her desire to get stronger was the only reason she ever left her village. Shin just listened in silence as she opened up. Clutching her sword, she vowed to take down that giant boar and finally bring peace to her family. Her eyes were fixed on the flickering flames. Eris suddenly realized she knew nothing about him and asked if he ever talked about his own family. Shin just tilted his hat, looking like he was stuck in a memory. He looked up at the night sky, admitting there were two people he considered family. Even if they both had pretty trash attitudes, he still kept them in mind. Elsewhere, the mysterious long-haired observer let out a loud snort. Her partner wondered if she was sick, but she figured someone was just talking smack about them. They kept a close eye on their screen, watching Shin every move. It looked like things were getting spicy since he was already planning his next big hunt. Tia calls out her father for his twisted hobby of creating monsters. She points out that the gigant boar is way more aggressive than his usual creations. Lounging on the sofa, the short-haired observer admits she is actually a little worried this time. It seems like those wild creatures are becoming a real problem. She leans in with a sly smirk. That gigant boar has no idea what kind of bad luck is coming its way. Back at the camp, Shin decides to head out and check his traps before sunrise. Eris can only look down and apologize for dragging him into her mess. She tells him it is not too late to back out and avoid risking his life. Shin just gives her a blank look and asks why he would even need to do that. He shuts down the idea of being in danger immediately. To him, there is no risk involved when he already knows he is going to win. As he walks off into the darkness, he casually admits his only mistake was not studying the boar habits enough. Eris is left completely speechless by his confidence. Shin looks back with a calm expression, telling her that being weak is not a sin. Eris simply agrees with a soft smile. Heavy footsteps echo through the trees as a massive beast finally makes its entrance. This dude remains completely unbothered, leaning against a log as if he was just waiting for a friend. He tips his hat with a sharp look. At the royal capital of the Atwalled Kingdom, high up in the castle towers, a soldier delivers a report to his commander about the situation in the forest. Meet Rex, the commander of the local knights. He hears that some random adventurers accepted the quest to slay the giant boar and thinks they are just throwing their lives away. The soldier asks if the princess has been notified, but the report is still fresh. Rex chooses to keep her in the dark for now, since the mission is far from over. He knows that if the lady of the castle caught wind of the hunt, she would never be able to sit still and watch from the sidelines. Elsewhere, Yumiya and the village doctor walk through a quiet graveyard at the refugee camp. 10 long years have passed since the disaster that ruined their lives, and the memories still weigh heavy on them. The doctor reflects on the lasting pain of seeing their homeland destroyed, but their quiet moment is interrupted by a shocked shout nearby. Someone has just heard some unbelievable news. Word is spreading through the camp like wildfire. The refugees can barely process the fact that a group is actually going out to hunt the beast that took everything from them. The trauma in this camp is heavy. One man remembers the exact beast that took his leg, while a couple nearby cries out for their missing daughter. Some of the refugees are still doubting if the monster can even be beaten, but young Maru isn't having it. He shouts that the hunters can definitely do it because they already saved his life once before. The news finally reaches Yumiya, and she is frozen in shock. A villager explains that the duo who arrived yesterday just headed out to take down the giant boar for good. Without a second thought, Yumiya sprints toward the forest after them. She can't let her friend face that nightmare alone. Deep in the woods, our boys Shin and Eris are setting the stage. Eris presses her ear to the ground and estimates the target is only 50 steps away based on the vibrations. Shin keeps it cool and confirms the plan is working. The beast is charging right into their line of sight. He hands Eris a mysterious glass orb and gives her one simple job. The moment the monster shows up, she has to nail it right between the eyes. Eris confirms the game plan while Shin breaks down the mechanics. He engineered the glass to shatter easily, releasing a specific scent that will bait the monster into their trap zone. Eris spots the weird pouch on his waist and realizes it is actually a legendary interdimensional bag. It can store a massive haul, but if the exterior is damaged, everything inside gets ejected at once. She starts losing her mind over how a random guy can afford such a rare item. Shin casually mentions that he just made it himself, which honestly only makes him more terrifying to her. The light-hearted vibe dies instantly as a massive tremor shakes the forest. Eris locks in, recognizing the heavy footsteps of the beast she has been hunting for years. The monster finally shows up and it is absolutely massive. It looms over the forest, making the two of them look like tiny insects in comparison. Shin watches the titan stop for a drink and confirms this is its favorite watering hole. He checks in on Eris, who is visibly shaking as she faces the source of her deepest trauma. She takes a long, deep breath to steady her hands. Standing right behind the massive beast, she gets ready to kick off the hunt. Eris finally makes her move, swinging her weapon right at the beast's face. She tells it that it has been a long time, finally confronting her past head-on. The monster screams in pain, but before it can retaliate, Shin grabs Eris and pulls her back. "Nice shot," he says, keeping them both out of the danger zone. Shin stares down the titan with zero fear. "Time for a running race," he tells her with a smirk. The chase is officially on and they sprint through the trees with the massive beast tearing up the ground behind them. Eris notices the boar is way angrier than usual. Shin admits he mixed spicy gazelle fruit into the ball she threw. Gazelle fruit is a spicy pepper from another world. It is usually just an ingredient for curry, but Shin uses it to blind his enemies. Between the smell and the powder in its eyes, the boar is in total chaos. Eris is just stunned by how petty Shin's combat tactics are. Yumiya is struggling to catch her breath when the forest suddenly turns into a stampede. Animals are booking it in every direction as a massive roar shakes the ground. The giant boar comes charging out of the brush like a freight train. Shin isn't even sweating as he lures it closer, shouting for it to follow him. Their traps snap like toothpicks under the monster's raw power. Seeing the plan go south, the two of them turn tail and start a high-stakes sprint through the woods. Eris panics as the boar ignores every obstacle in its path. Shin tosses her a vial with a quick shout, telling her to catch it. It is a high-grade stimulant that doubles your speed for a full minute. Shin downs his own bottle with a smirk, admitting he was only running slow so she could keep up. They hit a gear that would make a race car jealous, blurring through the trees. "Just follow me," Shin calls out as they leave the monster in the dust. Determination fills Eris as she pushes her body to the limit. She clears the thicket only to find Yumiya hiding behind a tree directly in their trail. The giant boar bursts out of the trees and charges straight at Yumiya. Eris screams in terror, while our boy Shin watches the carefully laid trap zone fall apart. Without a second thought, Eris shoves Yumiya out of the way and throws herself in front of the charging beast. A massive impact shakes the ground as the boar plows through everything in its path, sending Eris flying. Shin calls out to her as the dust begins to settle. Yumiya is completely shattered, staring at her friend lying motionless on the grass. But there's no time to panic. Shin quickly forms a hand sign and hurls a projectile straight into the monster's face, buying them a few precious seconds. A massive explosion erupts, masking their movements as Yumiya rushes to Eris's side, desperately trying to wake her up. Time for a tactical retreat. Shin hoists the unconscious Eris onto his back and tells Yumiya the plan just changed to a full-speed escape. They make a break for it with the boar still roaring in the background. Shin checks if Yumiya can keep up, and she gives a determined nod. Shin knows when to call an audible. He tells Yumiya to get Eris to safety while he holds the line, because there is still some unfinished business to handle. Eris can barely choke out an apology, but Shin is all smiles, telling her not to sweat the small stuff. The warm moment gets a cold shower real fast as that beast erupts from the debris. No time for a heartfelt goodbye. Shin screams for them to run as the monster starts a high-speed charge straight for them. Our boy downs a speed potion with a casual shrug about tomorrow muscle pain. That is, assuming he even survives long enough to feel the burn. The battlefield is a wreck, with nothing but a stray teddy bear left in the wake of the beast roar. Shin takes a breather on the rubble, trying to figure out his next move. The monster is busy bullying a decoy while Shin runs some quick mental math. He originally planned to lead it into a pit, but this ruin vibe is making that impossible. Thinking time is over, Shin scrambles away as the beast starts sniffing around the trap, trying to pick up his scent. The monster lets out a roar that shakes the ground. A lone scarecrow decoy stands in its path, but it is not enough to stop the charge. Shin watches from the side and identifies the weak point right between its eyes. Maru suddenly charges in and swings a wooden stick with all his might. Shin is stunned by the kid's reckless move. The boar does not even feel the hit and just keeps roaring. Maru gets tossed through the air and Shin yells at him for being such an idiot. Our boy realizes brute force won't work, so he pulls out a handful of test tubes. It is time to try a more chemical approach. Shin hurls the volatile potions directly into the monster's open mouth. A blinding flash of light fills the air before a massive explosion rips through the beast's throat. Smoke pours from the creature's nostrils as it groans in pain. He stays behind cover and wonders if that was finally enough to end it. The monster's eye snaps open with a dark intensity, proving it is still alive. The beast thrashes through the debris, looking more dangerous than ever. Shin grits his teeth and wonders if this monster is actually immortal. It looms over him and pins him down under its massive shadow. The boar is gasping for air, and its heavy breathing echoes through the ruins. He finally finds his composure and stares the creature down. He calmly declares that it is checkmate. Just as the beast closes in, a single arrow streaks across the sky with perfect precision. It hits with a heavy impact, burying itself deep in the creature's eye. Iris lowers her bow, gasping for air as she realizes they actually did it. But the adrenaline wears off fast, and she collapses to the stone floor as Yumiya rushes to her side in a panic. Shin walks over with a proud grin, telling her she made it just in time. Looking at the fallen beast, he admits her archery skills are on a completely different level. That night, the camp transforms into a festival ground under the full moon. Mugs of ale clash together as the villagers raise a toast to their hero. The villagers crowd around Shin, piling his plate high and demanding he eat and drink his fill. Our boy is absolutely stuffed, but the praise and food just keep coming. One villager cannot believe a single arrow took down such a monster, but Shin quickly warns him to stay back. That tip is coated in enough poison to kill 100 men instantly. Shin explains the arrow was actually the backup plan after they exhausted the beast. He gives all the credit to Iris, admitting the whole strategy depended on her insane aim. The villagers raise their mugs for a massive toast to celebrate their hero, Iris. The doctor mentions that the medicine worked perfectly, and Iris just needs some quality rest. Our boy sits back and watches the celebration, finally able to relax. Shin looks relieved as he enjoys his soup under the quiet night sky. The camp is finally peaceful after everything they went through. Inside the tent, Shin drops off some warm soup and tells Iris she can take her time eating it. She looks up, surprised to see him checking in on her. She gives him a grateful smile and admits his potions were a huge help in her recovery. The bill for that save comes out to 2 gold coins, which Iris thinks is straight-up robbery. Shin just smiles and asks if her life was worth the price. Maru bursts into the tent to drag Shin back to the party so he can tell the villagers more stories. Iris just laughs and tells him good luck with the fans. Yumiya stands by the bed and reflects on just how mysterious Shin really is. She asks Eris if she is feeling alright while playfully tugging at her, though Eris clearly wants to stay under the covers. At least she brought over some hot soup to help her get back on her feet. Back in the day, the two of them used to sleep together just like this. Yumiya brings up those old memories, and Eris softly agrees while enjoying the nostalgic moment. Under the glow of the full moon, Yumiya admits she was terrified the entire time Eris was away. She felt the weight of protecting the other orphans all on her own and spent every night wishing her sister was right there with her. She looks down with a sad expression, apologizing for being so weak. It is time for her to finally graduate from being a coward. Iris turns back and tells her that she felt the exact same way. She wanted to become strong enough to protect everyone because she was always afraid of seeing her loved ones get hurt. The sisters share a heartfelt embrace, the past finally behind them. Iris apologizes for everything, but Yumiya tells her she has always been the little sister she was proud of. They share a warm laugh as they look at a drawing of their old family. Yumiya gives her sister a sweet smile and tells her that she loves her so much. The village doctor hangs out at the graveyard pouring a drink for the nun who raised the girls. He admits he has not laughed this hard in a long time. Back at the camp, the crew is finally chilling and enjoying a warm meal together. The doctor watches the sisters and thinks about how strong they have become. Looking up at the moon, the old man realizes that maybe sticking around for a long life has its benefits. It is a quiet, perfect night for a change. Cut to the kingdom, where the military is in a meltdown. Rex is screaming at his guards because the princess pulled a fast one and escaped in a horse carriage. Meet Almesia, the first princess of Atwald, who is clearly living for the drama. She is hyped to track down the giant boar and finally see what all the fuss is about. Back in town, the local blacksmith shop is buzzing with the sound of steel on steel. Our boy is putting in overtime under the heat, hammering away at a new project. An unexpected visitor stops by to let him know the boar hide is ready for transport, but Shin remains locked in. He barely registers her presence while he keeps his focus entirely on the task at hand. Taking a moment to wipe the sweat away, Shin looks at his creation with zero satisfaction. He just calls the work ugly and gets right back to the grind. While the ranger girl questions his weird technique, Shin reveals he is making a weapon from his original home. This catches the blacksmith's attention, and the man realizes that layering the metal is the secret to high durability. Tensions rise slightly when Shin ignores her to hammer away on the floor, but he is only interested in the reward money. He tells her to handle the details while he sticks to the manual labor. Watching him repeat the same move for hours has Eris thinking his country must be full of patient people. Shin just gives a simple nod and keeps the rhythm going. In another life, a regular dude named Tudo Yuki stands in a starry void before a girl on a throne. She asks him what kind of blessing he wants for his next journey. The goddess Eldar keeps it simple and offers to grant any wish our boy desires. She is playing the role of the ultimate benefactor with a very smug look on her face. Yuki is not really feeling the hype. He just asks for a trade that would let him travel the world without any hassle. He wonders if there is a demon king to kill, but Eldar just calls his vibe old-fashioned. Apparently the last guy she summoned was a total capitalist who was way more selfish. Eldar drops the news that this is going to be an experimental reincarnation. She points over to her partner to handle the boring details. Eldar drops the news that this is going to be an experimental reincarnation. She points over to her partner to handle the boring details. Enter Tia, the daughter of the goddess who looks more like a stressed intern. She introduces herself and tells Yuki to prepare for the long explanation. Tia tries to look cool while presenting the new world, but her heel snaps and she goes down hard. Eldar just sighs and mentions that she is clearly not used to wearing those shoes. Tia presents the map of his next life while cleaning up her tears. Yuki is less than impressed, noting that the whole world looks like a prize pumpkin from a local lottery. The history lesson starts with two separate worlds smashing together into one. It was a classic split, with humans taking the big half and demons getting the scraps. A hero from 1,000 years ago forced the Demon King to build a barrier, cutting off all travel. That wall is on a strict expiration date, set to disappear in just 3 decades. Dealing with global disasters isn't on the menu for our boy. Tia confirms he is just a warm-up act, an experiment to see how things go before the real hero arrives. Standing before the Holy Sword, the goddesses lay out the plan. They are going to use his life as a data point to refine how the next reincarnation cycle should go. Eldar confesses they went overboard last time by granting every wish and maxing out every skill. This time, they are pulling back on the blessings to avoid another massive disaster. The realization that he is just a guinea pig because the last guy was too broken hits hard. He finally understands why they are being so stingy with the power-ups. Tia loses it while describing the last guy they sent. He turned his life into a pigsty of excess until the goddesses pulled the plug and let a monster finish him off. Yuki sees through the experiment. They are nerfing him just to see if a normal guy can survive without becoming a total degenerate. Eldar makes it clear this isn't a forced gig. Reincarnation is a gamble, and there is zero promise of a happily ever after. She drops the final question. Despite the risks and the lack of cheats, she wants to know if he is still in. Cut back to the present. Shin is just trying to live his life when a heavy knock at the door ruins the peace. The secret is out. A mob of desperate adventurers and local press are swarming the shop, thirsty for those top-tier potions. Fame is a nightmare. Shin slams the door shut while Eris notes he is officially the most popular guy in town, much to his disgust. Eris drops the bomb that the village wants him to escort the boar hide as part of the mission rewards. Shin is already regretting every life choice in the background. It is a total circus at the workshop. Random adventurers are literally smashing through the walls to form a party while the press shoves cameras in his face. That was the final straw. Shin reaches his breaking point and screams that he will take the job just to get some peace and quiet. The journey starts with zero vibes. Stuck on a cart, our boy is busy complaining about his rotten luck and the weirdness of the guards tagging along. Iris is living her best life with some snacks while casually revealing the client is Princess Almesia. The name drop is enough to short-circuit his brain. He is ready to bail on the spot, but Eris has a death grip on his cloak. Babysitting a 15-year-old royal was definitely not in the job description. Eris tries to smooth things over by hyping up the princess. Apparently, the royal is known for being a kind and innocent soul who actually cares about her people. Shin is not buying the royal hype. He knows that powerful people with good intentions are often the biggest red flags. The travel vibes are high until the driver mentions how much the king spoils the princess. The conversation stops instantly when Eris spots a disaster on the road and yells for the group to look. A destroyed carriage and horses littered with arrows block their path. Eris can barely find the words as she looks at the carnage left behind. They find a survivor barely hanging on while the realization hits that this is the royal family's carriage. Eris rushes toward the wreck, confirming her worst fears as she sees the royal crest. Shin checks the interior and finds nothing but empty seats. It is clear that the princess has been taken by bandits. Eris tries to get answers from the wounded man while he panics about the royal safety. Shin steps in to keep her focused so they can figure out a plan. Our boy breaks out the binoculars to scout the trail. The blood is still fresh, which means the kidnappers haven't made it far yet. Shin is perched on a wooden gate using his binoculars to track the carriage's movement. He calls out its location to the group, noting they are heading north at high speed. The sight of an imperial emblem on the carriage sends a shock through him. Before he can even process the implications, Eris takes off on a horse, leaving everyone else in the dust. Shin is left pulling his hair in frustration at her recklessness. Meanwhile, a survivor is barely hanging on, gasping for air with a lethal arrow wound. Our MC isn't heartless, so he hands over some medicine and his own gear to the survivor's companion. He tells them to get back to town immediately before he jumps on a horse to chase after Eris. Inside the rolling prison, Princess Almesia is struggling as a masked man named Dioris introduces himself. He reveals his high rank in the Imperial Army while making it clear she is officially being abducted. Dioris calmly invites her on a long journey to the Empire while his guards handle the staff. One of the maids tries to put up a fight, but she doesn't realize just how dangerous her situation is. The brigadier has zero patience for rebels and orders her death on the spot. Judy tries a last-ditch attack with a hidden knife, but the Imperial soldiers shut her down instantly. Dioris is a menace, ordering his men to finish the maid just to break the princess. Almesia snaps, begging for her friend's life while promising to follow every command. This guy has zero chill. Even after the princess surrenders, he's still ready to deliver a brutal message to the king in a box. Meanwhile, on the road, the guards spot a random barrel sitting on a tree stump. The fuse is burning low and they realize too late they just walked into a setup. The barrel pops and floods the road with a thick smokescreen. Dioris is caught in the middle of it, hacking up a lung as his vision goes white. It's a mess out there. While the soldiers scramble to report the emergency, one of them gets tagged by a sniper and drops before finishing his sentence. Iris pulls up on a horse like a boss, bow drawn and ready to work. She demands the return of the princess, officially starting the rescue mission. An arrow zips through the fog and the brigadier catches it right in front of his face. The dude doesn't even blink as he stares down the tip, proving he is just as dangerous as he looks. Things are getting ugly fast. The brigadier drags the princess by her hair while his goon gets the order to end the intruder. He is genuinely confused though, wondering if this new guy is actually her friend. Our boy pulls up on his horse looking ready for war. He hits them with the sarcasm, mockingly praising their gentle way of handling a hostage. No more talking, he launches from the saddle and delivers a heavy strike to clear the path. Once inside the carriage, Shin checks on the princess and tosses her a healing potion. He keeps his identity low-key, claiming he is just a member of a victim association. Almesia looks stunned while holding the medicine. Since the maid is in bad shape, Shin makes sure the princess knows the treatment is meant for her too. The vibe shifts instantly when the brigadier appears right behind him with a massive axe. He is surprised Shin is even on his feet after the beating he took earlier. Shin stays calm even with a blade at his throat. He looks him right in the eye and drops his classic line, claiming he is just a pharmacist. Dioris goes for a heavy overhead swing, but Shin is already 3 steps ahead. He grabs the princess and slides under the strike, landing a quick stab right in the brigadier's side. Shin is already dropping mid-combat roasts, calling the masked brigadier a fool for being too soft. He follows through with a strike that sends the man reeling backward. A quick check of the wound reveals that the blade didn't even go deep. Dioris is genuinely confused and starts wondering if Shin is trying to fight him with a toy. Shin just smirks and claims a sharp blade would simply be too much to handle. The brigadier is starting to suspect this mysterious pharmacist might be a foreigner with a secret. While the main fight is popping off, Eris finishes cleaning up the trash. She drops the last few guards with her bow and finally gets a moment to catch her breath. Success came down to the speed potion she got from Shin back at the village. With the backup cleared out, her only target left is the man in the mask. Brute force wins out as Dioris smashes through the carriage to force a direct clash. Our MC tries to hold back the weight of that heavy axe while the princess screams in the background. Dioris brings the heat with a heavy swing that is pure pressure. Shin barely catches his breath while acknowledging the man's insane power. Knowing he is outmatched in raw strength, our MC pulls out a muscle enhancer stimulant. He slams the needle home to double his power for the next round. The drug kicks in instantly as Shin lets out a primal roar. Dioris is not impressed, promising to cleave both the boy and his weapon in one go. The brigadier's axe comes crashing down with enough force to shatter the ground. A massive explosion of debris swallows the battlefield as the two powers collide. Dioris loses his cool when he realizes his ultimate strike just got stonewalled. Shin is standing his ground, proving that his enhanced physicals are the real deal. Shin manages to land a solid hit that has the brigadier coughing, but the momentum shifts fast. Dioris grabs him by the face and slams him into the ground with terrifying speed. The count begins as Dioris repeatedly smashes Shin's head into the cratered earth. He mockingly asks how much longer that bare head can handle the abuse. Shin makes a desperate play by pricking a needle into the mix, catching the brigadier completely off guard. While he's stuck in a crater, our boy reveals he's used a paralysis anesthetic, banking on the fact that no one can tank a direct hit like that. Using every bit of speed he has left, Shin lunges forward to close the gap in an instant. He doesn't waste any words, simply telling the big guy it's time to go to sleep. The drug finally hits home as the armored brigadier loses his footing and crashes into the dirt. Shin can barely believe his luck, wondering if the guy is actually human since the dose took so long to work. Just as the fight reaches its breaking point, a massive squad of Kingdom Guards charges onto the scene. They're screaming for the princess at the top of their lungs, and the reinforcements couldn't have arrived at a better time. Seeing the massive squad of guards, Dioris realizes the mission is a bust and decides to pull back. He shoots one last chilling glare at Shin, promising that next time he won't be leaving without a head. Shin isn't trying to hear any of that, bluntly stating they won't be having a reunion. The masked man just laughs it off, knowing that as long as their nations are at each other's throats, their paths are bound to cross again. Iris rushes over to keep Shin from face-planting. absolutely horrified by how rough he looks. The adrenaline finally wears off, leaving our MC to curse his luck while his body feels like it's been through a meat grinder. Our boy is absolutely done with the drama, lecturing Eris for her reckless stunt while he nurses his wounds. Meanwhile, Eris is still stuck on the mysterious brigadier who almost took them out. Shin just shrugs it off, ready to leave the mystery behind. Judy finally catches a break as Shin's top-tier medicine starts working its magic on her wounds. Princess Elmesia is over the moon seeing her maid recover so fast. It is clear the local apothecary is carrying the whole team right now. Rex steps up to give a proper salute, thanking the duo for saving the princess from a total disaster. Shin is not trying to hear the hero talk, playing it off like they were just passing through. He really wants that quiet life, but destiny has other plans. The commander clocks that the medicine is not some standard guild trash and asks if Shin cooked it up himself. Our MC just hits him with the humble traveling pharmacist title to keep his cover. He is doing his best to avoid the spotlight, but his skills are too loud. Before he can even finish his sentence, the princess launches a full-force hug that nearly takes him out. She is fully convinced he is a hero straight out of a fairy tale. Shin did not sign up for this level of royal attention. Rex drops into a deep bow to apologize for the security failure, but Almesia takes the blame for her own impulsive carpet hunt. Shin is just standing there with a blank stare, realizing he is caught in some high-level royal drama. The vibe is getting complicated fast. Rex spots a suspicious look on Shin's face and starts asking questions. Our boy immediately starts sweating, trying to wave off the concern before his secrets get leaked. He is doing his best to act natural, but the stress is definitely hitting. Iris steps up to confirm they are the ones who took the job. Almesia is stunned, realizing the duo she was tracking is right in front of her. The princess is starstruck, convinced that this meeting is nothing short of destiny. She immediately orders Rex to prep the carriage so she can drag her new favorite heroes back to the palace. Shin tries to bail on the royal invite, but Rex shuts that down by promising a fat payday. Eris is already sold on the reward, leaving our boy with no way out of this social nightmare. While Almesia geeks out over the giant boar fur, our MC realizes his quiet life is officially over. He can already feel the headache coming on. Rain pours down over the ruins of Tangirl, a ghost town that has seen better days. Two riders move through the rubble, noting how deserted the area has become. Our favorite skewers cook is keeping a low profile while checking the streets for kingdom soldiers. This is not his usual crowd, and he is clearly not a fan of the extra heat. Inside a hideout, he is venting his frustrations to his latest catch. Turns out having a high-ranking imperial prisoner is a huge headache that almost got him locked up too. Luis is still acting tough, shouting that he will never obey some pathetic kingdom. The big guy just tells him to pipe down while pouring himself a drink. He starts getting nostalgic, mentioning how this place used to be a thriving hub for pearl farming. It was a lively city before the world decided to break it. The war between the Empire and the Kingdom turned this paradise into a graveyard. Now it is just a decaying wreck where only sea monsters feel at home. The big guy claims he was just talking to himself after Luis mocks him for getting attached. He is not in the mood for a heart-to-heart with his prisoner. The scene shifts to the capital as someone wonders if our duo has finally arrived in the big city. The city is huge and packed with enough people to make anyone's head spin. Eris gets the royal treatment and she is definitely pulling off the princess look. Almesia is looking just as stunning in her new outfit. The girls are already sprinting to the next shop while Rex is stuck on bag duty and Shin dies in the back. The city life is hitting our boy hard as he clings to a barrel for dear life. Rex admits the grand tour accidentally turned into a marathon shopping session for the princess. Almesia tries to drag him along for more adventure, but Shin is finished and heading straight for the castle. Rex notices our boy is reaching his limit and suggests the girls head out alone. Almesia looks devastated. Iris wastes no time teasing him for being popular enough to blow off royalty. Shin just groans, leaning his head on his arms while his soul slowly leaves his body. "Let's go, Lady Almesia," Eris says, dragging the princess away while Shin hides behind a barrel. Rex tells him to relax since the guards are on duty, but our MC still looks skeptical about her getting snatched again. The shopping spree turns into a snack run as a vendor offers the princess some ice cream. She takes one bite and melts. It is so delicious, she chirps with a glowing blush. It is a full-blown frenzy in the streets with everyone trying to give the princess a gift. Shopkeepers are shouting for her to try their bread and shoes like she is the greatest celebrity in the world. Rex watches the scene with a smug grin, clearly proud of his charge. Seeing the capital shower her with this much love makes all the stress melt away for a moment. With the girls gone, the Knight Commander decides it is time for a different kind of fun. "How about sparring with me for a bit?" he asks, and the look on Shin's face says he would rather be anywhere else. Rex flashes a grin while holding a massive gift box. He laughs off the idea of a real duel, claiming it is just light exercise for a veteran soldier. The two stand opposite each other in the sunlit courtyard. They offer a formal bow to show respect before the blades come out. Sword tips touch to finalize the duel's oath. Shin stays prepared, knocking back a quick potion while the captain explains the ritual. Official titles are exchanged. Rex introduces himself as the kingdom's knight captain, while our boy just claims to be a simple pharmacist. The air fills with the sound of clashing steel as they blur across the field. Rex is having a blast, praising the MC's reflexes as they exchange high-speed blows. Blades lock as the commander tries to recruit his opponent on the spot. Shin isn't interested in being a soldier, making it clear he won't be a tool for anyone's war. Rex doesn't miss a beat, bringing up the Empire's recent ambush to keep the pressure on. The mention of the enemy army catches Shin by surprise, making him pause for a split second. Shin is pressing for answers while their blades are locked. Rex is just as puzzled, wondering why the Empire is so thirsty for the princess. The captain drops a massive secret, claiming it all comes down to a hidden ability she has. Our boy is left completely lost, having no clue about royal power levels. Flashback time, 7 years ago, a marriage proposal from the Empire's third prince arrived with a fancy bouquet. Things were already bad between the two nations, but the Empire tried to force an alliance through this wedding. One look at the map shows just how much bigger their territory is. The king saw right through the trap and shredded the proposal. He knew that letting her power fall into enemy hands would mean the end of the kingdom. That rejection sent the Empire into a rage, and they launched a full-scale invasion with a massive fleet of ships. They wanted to flex their military muscle and crush any resistance. The resulting war was a complete disaster that left many people broken. It was a dark chapter where even the strongest became victims of the Empire's greed. Rex isn't sugarcoating how dark things got back then. It was a grim era that left everyone scarred. Tangirl used to be the kingdom's goldmine for pearls and trade, but as the war heated up, the Empire's internal mess started leaking into this paradise. The fighting only stopped when the city was wiped off the map. Both nations finally signed a truce over the wreckage. Back in the present, our boy is still clueless about why the princess is such a big prize. Rex is stunned by the ignorance but figures it is just part of the eccentric wanderer package. Turns out she's got a cheat code, prophetic dreams. She literally sees the future and the destinies of everyone around her while she's catching Z's. Our MC is already suspecting those annoying goddesses might be pulling the strings again. It's a rare gift, even if she doesn't have any control over when it triggers. That's exactly why the Empire is playing it so carefully. They want her power intact and won't risk breaking her by moving too fast. Our boy asks point blank if the kingdom wants war, but the commander stays quiet. Rex knows his place and refuses to spill state secrets. Tired of the runaround, our MC starts walking away. He tells the old man he will be back eventually while thinking about how annoying he is. He plans to leave the rest of the business to Iris. Still, he can't shake a bad feeling in his gut. Rex isn't ready to end the session just yet. He stops the kid in his tracks and claims the match is far from over. A jagged wave of stone suddenly rips through the ground. Rex stands his ground while the terrain gets shredded. The commander activates his true power. He calls out his magic sword technique as a glow appears on his hand. Slabs of earth fly through the air as our boy scrambles to dodge. He is shocked that an old soldier can output this much raw force. This is no longer a simple spar. Shin shows off his active warrior skills by literally running along the cliff face. He slides down a path of debris straight for the commander, who is caught off guard by the speed. Rex is sweating because the kid is literally running on top of his magic attack. Our boy doesn't care about the physics and shouts that he is ending this with his next move. The duel finishes with a giant pillar of rock locking the sword in place. Rex adjusts his mustache with a smug look and tells the kid he has still got a lot to learn about veteran warriors. Elsewhere in the castle, Yumiya calls out into the distance as word arrives that the king is ready. Eris wanders the hallways and wonders if her partner actually managed to get lost again. Our MC is basically just a head sticking out of a mountain of rubble with a deadpan look on his face. Eris turns the corner and lets out a scream that could wake the dead. Rex just stands there laughing while Shin gives him the most annoyed side eye in history. The old man thinks it is a total waste that a guy with this much talent is just a pharmacist. The princess is finally out cold as she recovers from the chaos in her own room. Shin asks about her condition while Eris admits that the weight of everything finally forced her to crash. Rex takes one look at their dirty gear and says they need a wardrobe change. There's no way he is letting them meet the king looking that crusty. Scene jump to the throne room. The two heroes are already on one knee as a voice tells them to raise their heads. Introducing the big boss, King Atwald XIII. He sits tall on his throne and admits they did a solid job. The king personally thanks Shin for saving Princess Almesia from the Empire. Our boy stays humble and plays along with the royal protocol. Enter Gunter, the minister with the swirly glasses who is in charge of the payroll. He starts listing off all the rewards they have earned for their monster hunting and princess saving. The royal treasury just opened up the massive vault. A pile of 250 gold coins hits the table, and it is a literal mountain of wealth. Eris is currently seeing nothing but dollar signs. Meanwhile, the king shifts the topic and mentions he has heard rumors about our boy being a top-tier pharmacist. Shin keeps it humble while staying on one knee before the crown. Inside, he is already tired of the formal routine. The king tells him to cut the modesty because his potions are the talk of the nation. He also points out that our boy is a known troublemaker for dodging the Alchemist Guild. Gunter adjusts his swirly glasses, confused why someone this skilled would stay solo. He even starts wondering if the whole thing is just a well-played fraud. Our MC drops some business facts, explaining that the guild just wants to steal his secret recipes. If he joins, the market gets flooded with cheap knockoffs and his profits disappear. Gunter is left fuming, but the king actually respects the hustle. He admits that he understands the principles Shin is protecting. The king notes that his guest clearly has a talent for business. However, he suggests that sometimes a person needs to look at the bigger picture. Looking down from the throne, the king drops the heavy demand. He wants the secret recipe for the healing potions revealed immediately. The king drops the mask, admitting he wants to use Shin's drugs to steamroll the Empire's army. Shin asks if the king wants to start a war, but the old man insists the Empire will be the ones to throw the first punch. Before he can even finish, guards slam their spears together to block the exit. The king tells him to fix his face, casually mentioning that his answer will decide the fate of the entire country. Shin isn't liking where this is going one bit. With a shadow over his face, the king turns up the heat. He tells Shin that refusing the request will lead to a treason charge and a very bad time. Iris is terrified at the mention of treason while Shin stays locked in his thoughts. He finally breaks the silence and asks for 250 gold coins for the deal. Gunter is losing his mind, screaming that asking for that much money for one recipe is literal robbery. He is officially convinced that this dude is a world-class fraud. Thinking ahead, Shin decides to raise the price so high they will have to walk away. He explains there are actually two versions of the potion and demands 500 gold coins for both. Gunter is having a full-blown meltdown. He screams that 500 gold coins is 10 times his entire yearly salary. The king does not even blink at the outrageous price. He leans back and casually doubles it, offering a cool 1,000 gold coins instead. According to the king, buying the future of his people makes even that price a bargain. Gunter is basically short-circuiting while our boy Shin just stares in disbelief. Shin realizes he just got played at his own game. He tried to kill the deal with a crazy high price, but the king's wallet is apparently bottomless. With the gold settled, the king moves on to his real agenda. He tells Shin that he has one more favor to ask of him. The king drops the news that the Empire has already infiltrated their borders. He wants Shin to go undercover and investigate the movements of the enemy army. Realizing he cannot say no to a man who just dropped 1,000 gold, Shin bows low. He officially accepts the mission as the king puts his faith in the duo. Gunter is having a panic attack about trusting a random wanderer with the kingdom's future. The king just tells him to stop being a cheapskate and brings up his leaky mansion. He lets out a loud laugh while dropping some truth about being cheap. He says that people who try to save coins on the wrong things always end up losing in the end. Over at the Royal Lab, the researchers are geeking out over the new healing potion recipe. They finally understand how using Kirum roots safely neutralizes the toxicity in the medicine. Iris has officially lost her mind staring at mountains of gold coins. She is so hyped about the 1,000 gold that she already wants to start building a castle. Shin is actually pretty annoyed since he just lost his most profitable business. Iris tries to stay positive, pointing out that an empire attack means healing potions will be more valuable than ever. Rex shows up with a bag of fresh clothes and a quick apology for the king's intense attitude. He explains that the guy just gets a bit too passionate when it comes to the safety of the princess. Our boy calls out the old knight for playing him like a fiddle alongside the king. Rex just plays dumb with a smirk, claiming he has zero idea what Shin is talking about. Rex hands over a horse as a parting gift to make up for all the trouble. Shin takes the reins and gets ready to head out while the old knight tells him to stay safe. Rex watches him go with a mix of respect and confusion. He cannot help but comment on how truly strange of a guy our MC is. Suddenly, a guard rushes in with urgent news about the princess finally waking up. Rex is relieved until he hears that she had some kind of intense dream that has her shaken. Back in the royal chambers, Princess Almesia is barely catching her breath while her maid tries to calm her down. Rex bursts through the door to see what all the noise is about. With a look of pure terror, the princess declares that something terrible is happening. She frantically tells Rex that they have to stop Shin before it is too late. Out on the road, our duo is making good time, but Shin is still in full sulk mode over his lost business. Eris is losing her patience, wondering how long he is going to mope while they investigate their next moves. They pull up to a grand cathedral that looks way too peaceful for a hideout. Shin suddenly decides to ditch Eris outside while he heads in to check things out solo, leaving her baffled. Shin enters a dark hall and gets a warm welcome from a hooded servant. Apparently, the creator is already waiting for him. They pull up to a massive ornate gate where the attendant asks if he has the crystal. Our MC keeps it short and sweet, confirming he is ready. The hooded man starts a dramatic chant to connect heaven and earth, while Shin locks the crystal into place. The magic circles start glowing as the gate begins to react. The doors fly open with a burst of light and steam. Shin stares into the portal and calls out the goddess Eldar, telling her he is not in the mood for any more of her divine games. Iris is left wondering what business our MC could possibly have at a temple. It just does not fit his vibe. Imperial army movements are her priority, but the pressure of an impending war is starting to weigh on her. Suddenly, a terrible thought hits her. What if this dude just took the bag of gold and ghosted everyone? She immediately shuts down the paranoia, knowing Shin is not that kind of irresponsible loser. Meanwhile, our boy is standing in front of the cathedral doors feeling pretty salty that the kingdom basically forced him to hand over his secret recipes. The hooded attendant starts the ritual with a deep prayer. He calls out for the goddess to descend and purify their souls. A dark silhouette forms within the light with a chilling smile. It seems the goddess has a very personal history with Shin. While Shin just plays along with the ritual, the guy tells our boy not to push himself too hard, completely unaware of the real vibe. The hooded attendant claims he can hear the goddess's voice. As Shin steps into the blinding light of the gateway, a divine voice echoes through the hall. The priest is practically shaking, shocked that a goddess would speak so kindly to a lowly servant like him. Shin's body drops to the floor as his soul is pulled into another realm. The goddess commands the priest to guard his defenseless shell while she brings him directly to her world. On the other side, we find the goddess Tia waiting in a full-on apron. She greets our boy with a cute smile, telling him to finally get some rest after his exhausting journey. She whips up a massive bowl of food from his old world as a special treat. Even though it won't actually nourish his spirit body, she insists on showing some hospitality. Shin can't help but mention how shook that priest would be if he saw his goddess wearing an apron. She gets immediately defensive, huffing that a goddess is still a sublime being regardless of the outfit. Tia notices that our boy looks a bit pale and asks if something painful happened. He just shrugs it off, calling his recent high-stakes business deal nothing more than an annoying waste of time. Our boy immediately shuts down the idea of being a charity worker, but Tia points out that the king really knows how to play him. It seems His Majesty is a pro at beating around the bush to get what he wants. She gives him a warm smile and calls him a softie, but then pivots to asking if he actually liked her cooking. Shin just stares back with a deadpan expression, clearly not wanting to answer that one. Tia struggles to describe the flavor, finally deciding it feels like she is tasting something from a completely unknown world. Shin is just confused, wondering what kind of otherworldly ingredients she actually used. She tries to push a bowl of miso soup that looks like literal nightmare fuel, complete with a giant eyeball. Shin politely taps out before she can even suggest the black beans, knowing his stomach has reached its limit. Shin finally snaps and yells at the goddess, but she just laughs it off from her floating cube. She finds it hilarious that the food was so bad it actually broke his kind-hearted streak. She starts fake crying and calling him a cruel idiot for being so blunt. Shin tries to defend himself by saying he never actually called the food terrible, even though his face said it all. Tia scolds her father for sitting on the table like a delinquent. The little guy ignores her and points out that while dodging a hostile guild is easy, standing against a king is a much more dangerous game. Shin vents about how fake pharmacists just want to steal his hard-earned recipes instead of actually doing the work. He is clearly fed up with people looking for a free ride. Eldar warns him with a smirk that the guild definitely has their eyes on his talent. A messy war provides the perfect excuse for them to swoop in and take what they want. Our boy starts walking away, admitting he decided not to pry into the princess's dreams after all. Eldar seems relieved, noting that keeping secrets is just part of their job. While gobbling down a fish, Eldar jokes about them getting dragged into the front lines too. She casually suggests just running away if the vibes get too dangerous. Shin tries to object, but Eldar drops some real wisdom about choosing his own path. She tells him to do what he should instead of just what he can to avoid living with regret again. Our MC actually stops to thank her, finally admitting that the goddess might have a point. Eldar looks surprised and smug, wondering if she actually earned that gratitude. With a new target in mind, Shin looks ahead with total focus. He has some serious business to settle in a place called Tangirl. The rainy sign welcomes them to Tangirl, but the vibe is already feeling pretty cursed. The town is a total wreck, leaving Eris wondering if they actually found the right place. She drops some lore about how this used to be a massive moneymaker for the kingdom thanks to pearls and fish. Eris doubts the Empire would even bother with this dump, but Shin notes it is a prime spot for a secret sea invasion. The place is crawling with sea monsters, which makes it weird that the royal guards are slacking on their monthly patrols. A sudden splash ruins the mood as a voice screams at them to identify themselves. A pair of kingdom soldiers rolls up looking for trouble. They scream at the duo to identify themselves or prepare for a cozy stay in a prison cell. Shin introduces himself as an envoy sent directly by the king, while Eris just happily tags along as his companion. The soldier connects the dots, recognizing them as the duo Rex mentioned. The description of a sharp-eyed guy and a goofy girl fits them perfectly. Panicked by the lack of official notice, the guard threatens them with a prison cell if they are lying. Shin stays calm and tells the man to just check with the palace using his magic radio. The mood shifts instantly once the ID checks out, and the soldiers start groveling to the famous pharmacist for being so rude. They quickly move the meeting indoors as the rain continues to pour over the town. Iris wastes no time taking advantage of the hospitality, demanding cake and ice cream from the stressed guards. Shin sticks to the tea, though the luxury brew is a bit too bitter for his taste. While Eris is busy ascending to dessert heaven, Shin tries to get back to business and asks to see the harbor. The guards insist they should just relax and finish their tea first. The friendly act drops the second the duo passes out, revealing the tea was actually spiked with heavy sleeping pills. These soldiers aren't just lazy, they are actively working against the kingdom. The big guy asks for final orders while groveling before his masked boss. Dioris doesn't even look up from his tea, just casually tells them to feed the duo to the sea monsters. Outside in the pouring rain, these imperial creeps are already losing their minds. They realize the passed-out ranger is actually a total beauty and start laughing about their lucky find. The goons start arguing over who gets to claim Eris for themselves. They are so busy fighting that they don't notice our MC is already wide awake and cracking his knuckles with a terrifying smile. Shin drops some cold logic while the soldier grovels on the floor. He knew these guys were fakes from the very beginning and came prepared for the betrayal. Trying to drug a professional pharmacist is a major skill issue. Shin tries to slap some life back into a sleep-talking Eris, but a sudden sound from the shadows puts him on high alert. The mysterious shadow in the doorway turns out to be a massive surprise. Shin and the familiar bearded man lock eyes, and neither of them can believe they are meeting in a dump like this. The big guy lunges forward and tackles our boy in a massive bear hug. He is beyond hyped to see his favorite pharmacist again after so much time. The big man demands to know why Shin is hanging out here instead of living it up in the capital. Shin plays it off with a weak excuse about a fishing trip gone wrong. Iris can't believe these guards actually sold out their own country to the Empire. It is a complete disgrace to the uniform. Thinking about the danger they put the princess in makes her blood boil. She looks ready to take matters into her own hands with a nearby blade. Before she can do something she will regret, the big guy steps in and tells her to drop the knife. These losers aren't worth catching a murder charge over. Shin backs up the big man and presents their next move. They are going to use a set of stolen clothes to sneak into the enemy camp for some recon. Our boy drops a classic proverb about hiding in plain sight. Sometimes the best way to disappear is to look like everyone else. The disguise plan has a major flaw for the big guy. Since nothing else fits, he is forced into the prisoner role while Eris jokes that his face fits the part perfectly. Eris tells Shin to shut his mouth and points toward the harbor. She is done with the bickering and needs the squad to lock in for the mission. A massive black warship is chilling in the docks, with the Empire flags flying high. This confirms that the threat is much closer to the kingdom than they thought. Shin uses a telescope to scout the situation and realizes his theory was spot on. The Empire is using secret sea routes to sneak their forces into the kingdom undetected. A masked guard pulls up and starts asking questions. The squad was just debating if the local sea monsters were on a break or if it was just breeding season. Shin hits a clean salute and immediately starts capping. He tells the guard he is a defector and just bagged himself a massive suspicious fisherman. The guard is absolutely losing it over the report of a giant intruder. Our big guy just stands there smoking and looking like he wants to end this conversation. The plan works perfectly and the guard starts bowing in apology. Shin gives his big buddy a little praise for being the best bait in the business. The cook is stressing about the Empire's threat, while Shin is already plotting something messy. They need to move fast before the situation at the capital gets even worse. Our boy hits them with the most unhinged idea yet. He suggests they just sink the massive warship and call it a day. The cook is not having it and calls him out for being reckless. He tries to talk some sense into the group before things go south. Shin isn't backing down. He reminds everyone that the Empire started this mess and he is just returning the energy. A moment of realization hits the group. The cook admits he misjudged Shin's cold exterior, while Eris just tries to keep up with the vibe shift. The big man decides to dip and leaves them to their chaotic plans. He bids them farewell as he disappears into the rain. No time for goodbyes because the mission is already moving. Shin and Eris waste no time and start scaling the side of the Empire's ship. Shin and Eris infiltrate the ship only to find it completely deserted. Eris is getting major bad vibes because the lack of guards is beyond suspicious. Our boy hands her a bag of explosives and tells her to hit the lower decks. They only have 30 minutes to wrap this up before the whole place goes up. Eris is left feeling concerned. She can tell Shin is acting different today and wonders if the coastal air is messing with him. The traps are laid and the timer starts ticking. Shin thinks the whole mission was way too easy and starts heading for the exit. Just as he turns to leave, a massive shadow looms over him. A deep voice asks if it is rude to leave without a greeting. Dioris is back and he brought the whole squad. Shin realizes he was walking straight into a trap as the masked man tells him to look out at the open sea. The horizon tells the whole story. A massive fleet of Empire warships is already swarming the coast. Shin is stunned by the sight of an entire fleet closing in. Dioris drops the cold truth that 5,000 soldiers are about to swarm the kingdom and the war is officially live. The Empire squad surrounds him like they are ready for a feast. They give him a choice to either run away or stay, and become fuel for their expansion. The masked leader mocks him for being a tiny mouse caught in a trap. Shin is done talking and breaks out his secret weapon, a high-grade speed potion. The situation was a distraction to lure them in. Shin's potion hits his system and he starts turning the deck into a graveyard. Shin admits to himself that he might have been a little too reckless this time, even with his regrets. He is moving so fast the enemy soldiers can only scream as they get taken out. An Imperial soldier tries to take his head, but he dodges the blade with ease. He keeps his eyes on the prize and yells out for Eris as the chaos continues. Eris gets cornered by a soldier and lets out a scream. The Empire is not showing any mercy, and they are ready to treat her like just another pest, to be crushed. Dioris watches the clock and declares that the time has finally come, leaving Shin frustrated as he realizes he is cornered. In a desperate move, he swings his blade to keep the reinforcements at bay. He struggles to catch his breath while more soldiers close in, realizing the waves of enemies are just not stopping. Dioris casually sits on a crate like he is watching a show, but Shin is not about to let him relax. He charges forward with everything he has, determined to smash the masked leader's head in. Shin is putting in work, sending soldiers flying as he tears through the blockade. The enemy squad is rattled by his speed, but just as he gains momentum, he freezes. Something is wrong, and the shock in his eyes says it all. Suddenly, Shin hits the deck hard as Dioris approaches with a chilling laugh. He is completely paralyzed on the floor, unable to move even a single muscle. Panic sets in as he wonders what just happened to his body. Dioris reveals his hand, holding up an empty bottle and mocking the hero for falling into his own trap. Shin realizes the terrifying truth as he watches the glass shatter on the ground. The realization in his eyes is pure dread. The masked leader confirms the nightmare, explaining that the area is flooded with a colorless, odorless paralysis gas. Both Shin and the remaining soldiers start choking as the toxin takes hold. There is no escaping the invisible mist. Shin is disgusted as he watches the enemy's own men suffer alongside him. The brigadier coldly dismisses them as disposable pawns, showing he has zero empathy for his own squad. Our boy cannot believe the level of cruelty he is dealing with. The masked leader raises his heavy axe with a chilling laugh, asking if anyone wants to hear about his secret hobby. This masked psycho admits he loves watching despair take over right before he takes a head. Our boy is pinned to the floor, his body refusing to move a single muscle. Eris watches from the sidelines in disbelief, letting out a desperate scream for Shin. Out of nowhere, the skewer cook crashes the party, throwing himself between Shin and the falling axe. The blade slices clean through his right arm, severing it completely. Even the masked leader is caught off guard, staring at the cook in disbelief before asking what he's doing there. The cook doesn't waste a second on pointless chatter. He cocks back his fist and unleashes a devastating technique called the Iron Hammer. His punch slams straight into the enemy's face, and the shockwave alone makes it clear he's done playing games. Shin watches in stunned silence as the cook sacrifices an arm to save his life. Eris instantly recognizes him, her eyes widening in shock as she cries out, "Uncle." The beefy merchant has officially had enough of the yapping. Locking eyes with his opponent, he coldly tells him to shut up before getting ready for the next round. At a secluded house in the rain, a sudden shout for everyone to wake up rings out as masked assassins with metal claws suddenly surround the building. Inside, the tied-up soldier is thrilled to see his supposed rescuers. He starts blabbing immediately, complaining about the pharmacist and the woman who got the drop on him. He points them toward the port, thinking he is being helpful by explaining that his captors are heading straight into an imperial trap. When asked why he would betray his own country, the man shamelessly admits it was all about the money. He is tired of being a broke soldier and just wants to be untied. That was his last mistake. These masked men are not from the Empire. They are kingdom loyalists cleaning up the trash that disgraced their honor. Back at the main scene, things are looking grim for our boy Shin. Uncle is standing over him, disappointed that he actually fell for a basic paralysis trap. Uncle is barely hanging on after losing that arm, admitting the blood loss is finally making his head spin. Eris is just happy to see him, but the man is on his last legs. Uncle isn't here for a heart-to-heart. Syringe in hand, he tells Shin to grit his teeth because this is going to hurt. After revealing an antidote swiped from the ship's storage, he jams it into Shin's arm. They need to move fast before things get even messier. Their window for escape just slammed shut. Dioris steps out of the shadows, looming over them like a final boss. The masked leader can't help but mock the cook's sacrifice. One life isn't worth losing an entire arm in his eyes. Uncle doesn't even flinch at the insults. Staying cool, he tells the villain he just didn't like his vibe. Dioris lunges forward to finish the job. Eris screams out in terror as the heavy axe swings toward her defenseless uncle. Just as the blade is about to connect, our boy Shin springs up and blocks the strike. Sword in hand, he is ready to return the favor. Our boy Shin quickly thanks his uncle for the clutch save. The uncle brushes it off like it's nothing. Missing an entire arm? Not a problem. He fires a devastating punch straight into the masked leader's face and launches him across the battlefield. The Empire soldiers are not about to let a little thing like heroism stop them from surrounding the duo. They have got orders to put anyone opposing them 6 feet under. Shin yells for his uncle to hit the deck as Eris lets an arrow fly from the shadows. The shaft hits its mark, igniting the stash of dynamite and blowing the whole ship to pieces. Smoke and fire fill the harbor as the flagship hull gives out. Empire troops on the nearby docks realize they are under attack and start moving in to support. Using the fire as cover, Shin makes a break for it with his uncle. Even in his state, the cook cannot help but mock how irrational this plan is. Uncle wants to be left behind to save time, but our MC is not leaving anyone. He tells the man to watch his tongue before they both take a dive into the water. Dioris stares down at the waves where they disappeared, refusing to believe the fall killed them. His men think it is impossible to survive that drop, but the boss wants a body. Dioris is on a power trip, manhandling his own soldiers like they are garbage. He demands they bring him Shin even if it is just a head, proving this guy is as cold as it gets. The soldiers ask about their paralyzed comrades, but the boss only cares about the explosives left on the ship. A huge splash in the water confirms that our main duo has made their move. Eris watches from the shadows, realizing just how bad the situation has become. She knows she needs to act fast if she wants to get anyone out of there alive. Shin and his uncle are struggling in the choppy water as the rain hammers down on them. It is a desperate race against time to stay afloat in the middle of the storm. The paralysis drug is still slowing Shin down, making it almost impossible to swim with the extra weight. Meanwhile, Uncle is already cracking jokes about having to close his shop for good. The cook tells Shin to just save himself and let him go so they do not both end up as fish food. Shin is not about to let that happen, telling the man to keep his mouth shut. Shin makes it clear he is saving his uncle no matter what the cost. The old man just calls him an idiot with a tired smile, realizing there is no arguing with our stubborn MC. A lifebuoy lands in the water right next to our drowning duo. Eris signals them from the entrance of a nearby cave, waving them toward cover. Shin drags the cook through the shallows and into the safety of the grotto. He catches his breath, relieved they finally made it to land. Shin leans over to catch his breath as Eris rushes into the cave. He is spent, barely able to ask if they actually managed to escape. Eris confirms they are safe for now, but warns that the Empire is scouring the area. Her relief vanishes the second she looks down and sees the state of her uncle. Eris covers her mouth in horror at the sight of the bloody stump. The damage is deep, and the old man is in bad shape. Our boy pulls out a mystery potion and claims he can fix the arm. He tells Eris to press the severed limb against the wound even as she begs for a real doctor. She is not buying it for a second. Standard healing magic has its limits, and fixing a lost limb is usually not one of them. Shin gets to work pouring the medicine while Uncle starts making his final piece. The old man is ready to check out with one last smoke, but Shin is not having any of that quitter talk. Eris helps hold the pieces together as the potion forces the body to repair itself. Nerves and muscle fibers weave back together like a biological puzzle coming to life. The speed of the healing is enough to break Eris's brain. She is already suspecting our boy of holding out with some legendary tier elixir. Sensation returns to the limb as Uncle realizes he is no longer a one-armed man. Everything is functioning exactly like it did before the axe. Shin stays humble as usual, explaining this is just a custom regeneration formula he cooked up. He gives the man a heads up that he is still going to be exhausted, since the meds only fix the physical damage. The mystery behind our MC's skills is starting to weigh on Eris. She is realizing that a normal apothecary does not just carry around the power of life and death in a bottle. The dread of losing his livelihood vanishes as Uncle realizes he is back in business. Eris lets the relief wash over her, finally acknowledging the massive debt they owe. Back in the cave, Shin bows low to offer his thanks to Uncle for the clutch save. Eris joins in on the apology tour, realizing they almost got the old man cooked for real. Our boy takes the full L, pinning the blame for the whole disaster on his own stubbornness. Eris cannot help but laugh at the honesty while Uncle just sighs. The man says it is rare to see someone so bad at being sincere. Uncle gives him a rough pat on the head and asks for some actual orc meat next time. Debt settled and the vibe finally lightens up. The peace does not last long because Eris spots something deeper in the cave and starts bugging out. She calls Shin over with a look of pure shock. They walk into a massive chamber filled with giant crystals, but these are not just rocks. Entire sea monsters are frozen solid inside the ice like some cursed museum. This explains how the Empire managed to dock their fleet in such a rough spot. Someone literally froze the local monsters to clear a path. Shin and the soldiers examine the massive frozen structures, and the sheer level of magical power required to pull this off is already setting off alarm bells. The old man drops a name that makes the room go cold, identifying the work as that of Commander Alarcon, one of the Empire's most dangerous warriors. Just hearing that name is enough to make Eris panic as she explains that Alarcon is a legendary hero who basically speedran his way to the top of the military. Shin realizes the Empire is playing for keeps if they are sending out their heavy hitters for a small border conflict, while Uncle just grumbles about the endless greed of the people in power. He turns to thank Eris for the clutch save with the lifebuoy earlier, but she just gives him a blank stare of pure confusion. She admits she has zero clue what he is talking about since she just followed him there, while a masked figure with glowing eyes suddenly materializes right behind her. Before anyone can react, a masked assassin drops from the ceiling and puts a blade to her throat, forcing Shin to stop his charge right in his tracks. Shin freezes in place as a masked killer holds a blade to the neck of the cook. The assassin warns the group to stay still, unless they want heads to start flying. Our boy connects the dots and realizes these guys are kingdom spies rather than imperial soldiers. The masked figure just laughs and asks what gave them away. Shin explains that the Empire does not bother with hostages and he has felt eyes on him since leaving the capital. He demands to know why his own allies are turning on him like this. The assassin gives him credit for being sharp. They are only here to seize the secret method for creating his regeneration medicine. Shin points out that he already sold his healing potion formulas to the king. The Shadow Unit claims that was not enough to stop the coming war. They think all this trouble could have been avoided if he had just shared all his secrets from the start. Even with a blade to his neck, the cook tells Shin not to give in. He believes the formulas of a pharmacist are worth more than any single life. Shin tries to negotiate, explaining that his recipe is too complex for them to verify on the spot. The assassin is not here to chat and asks if a little incentive would change his mind. A blade flashes, blood sprays across the scene. He made a cut on Eris' neck. Eris collapses to the dirt as Uncle cries out in pure desperation. The masked killer stays icy, telling Shin that the girl dies unless he hands over the real formula right now. Shin is seeing red, but the assassin just brushes it off. According to them, personal feelings mean nothing when the safety of the country is on the line. Head down and sweating, Shin finally breaks. Fine. He pulls out the scroll and a bottle of top-tier medicine. He demands they treat Eris immediately since their own supplies won't be enough to save her. The assassin mocks Shin for being way too trusting. He claims they will keep their word and return Eris alive, but there's obviously a huge catch. They are not letting her go until the formula is verified as the real deal. Shin is stunned as he realizes they are moving the goalposts. A titanic sea monster suddenly erupts from the ground and roars. Chaos breaks loose as the beast towers over them, while the assassin makes his move. Shin tries to find a way to talk this out, but the creature is just a mindless engine of destruction. Even the cook is losing his cool seeing a monster of this size. Our boy pulls out a bag of limestone and apologizes for what he is about to do. He is clearly cooking up a chemical surprise for the big guy. He tells the beast to go to sleep and tosses the bag, triggering a violent reaction. The explosion is so powerful, it sends Shin flying into the air. The monster dives into the water as the cook screams for his friend. Shin is being dragged down into the dark depths and starts losing his breath. Our boy is in the deep end, getting swallowed whole by a massive stone beast. It looks like game over as those jaws close in on him. He finally breaks the surface and gasps for air. Uncle is just relieved. The kid did not end up as fish food. The limestone trick actually worked and turned that monster into a concrete statue. It is only a temporary fix, so they need to move fast. Night falls as the Imperial soldiers search the woods with lanterns. Shin and Uncle are tucked away in the bushes, playing a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek. With 0 mana left for a real fight, they have to get creative. Shin tells Uncle to lend him a shoulder so he can reach something in the trees. He spots a batch of hallucination mushrooms growing on a trunk. This is basically the perfect weapon for a stealth mission. Uncle complains about his injuries, but he still gives the kid a lift. Shin reaches for the goods while directing his human ladder to the right. Shin starts cooking up some forest floor specials, explaining that these mushrooms are a one-way ticket to Hallucination City. He offers a taste test to Uncle, but the big guy is not interested in the MC's toxic cuisine. Our boy starts fanning the smoke, explaining that turning these bad boys into a gas cloud is the ultimate crowd control. The plan is to leave the entire search party in a mental fog while they make their move. Elsewhere in the woods, the soldiers catch a whiff of something strange and assume their target is close. They spot a hooded figure in the distance and go full aggro, thinking they finally have him cornered. It turns out to be way too easy as they surround the target and immediately call for the brigadier. One soldier delivers a kick only to realize they have been playing tag with a wooden log wearing a hat. The search party stands there feeling stupid, staring at a piece of wood and some mushrooms. They actually wonder if the target lost all his strength after falling into the ocean. Back with the duo, they are making a run for it while the distraction holds. Shin admits the smokescreen is only a temporary fix to buy them a few minutes. He directs Uncle toward an old fisherman path to reach the exit faster while warning him about a cliff nearby. Uncle is impressed, but the kid seems to know this layout a bit too well. Uncle smells something fishy. He grills the MC on how he knows the layout of this place like the back of his hand. Shin keeps it cool and casual. He admits this area is pretty much his personal playground. They break out of the woods and find a lonely cabin. Uncle checks the perimeter, but there is no sign of the enemies or their allies. The rescue mission takes a weird turn when they find Eris tied up and dangling over a deep well. She is muffled and currently fighting for her life against gravity. They turn the old soldier outpost into a temporary base. Uncle starts whipping up a meal while Shin notes that the place is surprisingly well stocked with supplies. Eris explains that the soldiers just left her hanging after they finished the job. Shin does a quick health check and confirms that she is recovering just fine. Dinner is served with a bowl of hot chicken soup loaded with healing herbs. Eris is happy to have something warm, and Shin realizes the cook has some hidden talents in the kitchen. Uncle finally connects the dots and realizes that the formula Shin handed over was the real deal. Eris can only look away in shame while Shin keeps it brief with a simple confirmation. The group takes a moment to process the weight of what they just lost. The weight of the sacrifice finally hits Eris hard. She is drowning in guilt, feeling like her life wasn't worth the price of Shin's life work. The apology doesn't stop the spiral. Shin cuts through the drama, making it clear that a survival situation doesn't leave room for second-guessing his choices. Uncle leans back and drops some wisdom to ground the room. He tells them straight up that no medicine is worth more than a loyal companion. The dark cloud finally starts to move on. Shin drops his cold guard for a split second to tell her that the mourning period is officially over. Uncle takes a moment to reflect on their intense bond. Eris is suddenly overwhelmed with gratitude and won't let go, while Shin just accepts his fate with a deadpan stare. The mood shifts back to strategy as Uncle asks for their next move. He wonders if they should hunt the Empire or chase the formula, but Shin is already focused on the bigger storm on the horizon. The peace is officially over as the clouds of war gather over the horizon. Back at the palace, a spy delivers a game-changer by confirming they finally secured the secret formula for regeneration medicine. The king is impressed and realizes his plan is moving perfectly. He reflects on how Shin was hiding a massive trump card this whole time. This dude is definitely a slippery one. With a sinister grin, the king declares that all the pieces are finally in place. He is ready to turn the tide and crush the empire for good. The city streets are filled with the sound of hooves as the royal army mobilizes for the coming conflict. Amidst the preparations, a mysterious hooded figure asks Rex for a favor. She needs to slip away on a personal mission before the real chaos starts. Rex can already smell the scent of war in the air. He asks the princess if she is really sure about leaving the safety of the capital as they reach the city gates. Almesia makes it clear that her royal duty won't let her ignore a crisis of this scale. Finding Shin is her top priority right now. A massive imperial warship cuts through the waves toward the shore. A voice from the deck wonders if this is finally the kingdom of Atwald. Prince Michael is clearly hyped to meet Princess Almesia and does not care about the danger of standing on the railing. His guards are losing their minds trying to keep the third in line to the throne from falling overboard. He just laughs it off with a casual apology for being so reckless. The playful vibe disappears as the prince decides it is time to move. He heads toward the command center while the guards watch his every move. A high-ranking officer stops him to deliver a message from the top. General Alarcon is ready to give him the latest update on the invasion plans. The personal guard of the prince is not feeling the lack of respect and starts throwing a tantrum. He cannot believe some young general has enough pull to bar him from the room. The female soldier does not blink and makes it clear that the prince is the only one allowed inside. Michael steps in to cool the room down before things get messy. He tells his men to show some respect because the guy inside is currently the top military mind of the empire. Inside the command room, the man of the hour is waiting with a cold stare. General Alarcon welcomes the prince and acknowledges the long journey he took to get here. Prince Michael is not about to sit around and wait. He demands a situation report while acknowledging the heavy toll the soldiers have already paid. General Alarcon points out the targets on the map. Kingdom agents hit their ships at Tangiel, leaving the Empire with no choice but to prepare for a full-scale battle. Michael is still desperate to avoid the carnage. He believes meeting the king face-to-face could clear up any misunderstandings and prove their peaceful intentions. The prince swears his love for Almesia is the real deal, and that a royal marriage could unite their nations. Alarcon is not a believer, knowing all too well how easily bonds can break. The general keeps it cold and realistic. In his mind, true peace is impossible unless they use absolute military force to bring the kingdom to its knees. Michael shifts the focus to their top spy, Louis Harshes. He wants to know if the man with the best intel also thinks war is the only option. The team admits that Louis is a total wildcard. He gave up a high-rank command just to play in the shadows, making him a dangerous piece they cannot fully trust. Michael is putting all his chips on his friend Louis. General Alarcon isn't exactly thrilled, but he agrees to follow the prince's lead for now. Orders are flying to get a messenger out to the front lines immediately. Alarcon warns the prince that if the report is what they expect, the full-scale invasion starts at once. Michael understands the stakes are sky-high while praying for a miracle. Out on the water, the massive Imperial fleet keeps pushing forward. Cut to the morning papers where the headlines are screaming about a miracle medicine. The media is working overtime to hype up the coming war and keep the people on edge. Back in the city, the crew is catching up on the latest propaganda. It looks like the kingdom's spies are already making moves on the local alchemist guilds. Uncle spots the locals heading for the hills while Shin realizes the news is just fueling the fire. With the town evacuated and the pressure mounting, Eris asks what the plan is. Eris reveals that the Empire already used a magical link to confirm the formula is legit. She heard the guild chairman's voice herself, so there is zero doubt they know the truth. Shin decides to hit up the Alchemists Guild while throwing shade at everyone for being too hyped for the war. Uncle turns to Eris, asking what her plan is now that things are getting serious. Eris admits her hatred for war but cannot stop thinking about the consequences of an Empire victory. She is terrified of what will happen to the princess if the worst-case scenario plays out. She remembers how the princess was kind to her despite being a commoner. It is not just the Empire looking to use those prophetic dreams for their own gain. Determined to save Lady Almesia, Eris begs Shin to join their side. She knows he might be the only one who actually stands a chance against the Empire forces. Our boy keeps it real, reminding everyone he is just a pharmacist and not a soldier. Eris tries to push back, asking what becomes of the princess if he stays on the sidelines. Eris lets out a final plea, asking if this country even feels like a home to him. Shin shuts it down with a cold apology, making it clear he has zero interest in fighting for a country that never did him any favors. Eris finally takes the hint, realizing their paths are officially splitting. Eris gives a final heavy goodbye before walking away, leaving Shin alone on the steps. He doesn't look up, letting the silence settle as their paths officially split. Uncle isn't buying the cold shoulder and asks if he's really letting her go. Shin just brushes it off, asking if the big guy plans on heading to the front lines himself. The cook admits he's packing up and leaving the city since war is bad for business. Shin doesn't miss a beat, trying to score one last free drink before they part ways. With everyone gone, our MC pulls his hat low and gets ready to make his own move. The vibe is shifting as he stops playing the bystander. Over at the Alchemists Guild, things are pure chaos as a mob of people demand answers about the miracle medicine. Everyone wants to know if the new drug is going to be the deciding factor in the coming war. The noise cuts out the second Shin walks in, casually asking to see the boss. The crowd can't believe the person they were just arguing about just strolled through the front door. A refined man with a monocle and a massive fan looks down at him, surprised to see the legendary holdout finally showing his face. He points out that Shin has dodged their invitations for years, making this surprise visit even more suspicious. Shin isn't taking the bait as the guildmaster tries to take full credit for his hard work. The man actually claims he spent years researching a formula he definitely just stole. Our boy calls him out immediately, accusing the guild of using spies to swipe his secret recipe. The guildmaster just laughs it off behind his fan like a total snake. He makes it clear that if Shin wants a seat at the table, he has to join the guild first. They are basically trying to gatekeep his own medicine while claiming to be too busy for drama. The real motive drops when he demands all of Shin's other formulas as well. Shin isn't having it, gritting his teeth and stating he would rather die than hand over his life's work. Things escalate fast as guards tackle Shin to the floor without warning. The guildmaster reveals a new government order forcing all pharmacists to serve the state, effectively turning the guild into a monopoly. Since Shin refused the invite, he is officially branded a traitor to the kingdom. He is told he will be spending the rest of his life in a cell for talking back to the wrong person. Just as the guards prepare to haul him away, a hooded figure enters the room and demands his release. The guildmaster is genuinely confused, wondering who this girl thinks she is to give orders. The girl finally drops the hood and reveals herself as Princess Almesia, daughter of the king. She looks everyone dead in the eye and makes her status known. The guildmaster looks like he just saw a ghost, dropping his fan as his jaw hits the floor. On the other side of the room, the guards are ordered to release our MC before things get even worse. Rex steps in to back her up, reminding the room that this man is a hero who saved the princess. He basically dares anyone to try and call him a traitor after that. Panic sets in as the guild staff scrambles to set Shin free, their smug attitudes replaced by pure terror. Our boy just sits on the floor looking like he has better places to be. Once they are back out in the city, Shin asks how they even managed to track him down. It turns out a magical communication device was used to alert them the second he was in trouble. The vibe shifts as Almesia admits she didn't just come for a casual chat. She has been seeing prophetic dreams where Shin is at the center of something terrible. In her vision, the city is a burning wreck with mountains of dead soldiers piled high. Standing right on top of the carnage was Shin himself, looking like a total monster covered in blood. Shin jokes about becoming a butcher, but Almesia thinks he might be the one to flip the entire war. Rex notices that just mentioning the name Tangil makes him tense up. Rex tries to dig deeper into what happened in Tangil, but our boy just stays cryptic. He walks away without giving them a real answer. Back at the Adventurers Guild, a massive crowd is already lining up. Everyone is buzzing about the chance to join the war as mercenaries. Iris runs into a familiar face who is shocked she is heading to the front lines. When asked about Shin, she just calls him an idiot and says she has no clue where he went. The crowd is mainly there for the huge rewards and the rumors of a miraculous new medicine. The Alchemist Guildmaster steps out to welcome his new recruits with a wide grin. Things get brutal fast as the Guildmaster starts a live demonstration. He has an executioner hack off a prisoner's arm, sending the crowd into a panic. The Guildmaster tells everyone to pipe down since the man is just a prisoner anyway. He pulls out a small vial, claiming his new drug can fix the damage in an instant. The crowd loses it as the prisoner stares at his regrown arm in total disbelief. The Guildmaster fans himself with a smug grin, announcing that this miracle medicine will be free for anyone who joins the war. The hype is real as the crowd starts chanting about the rewards and the guarantee of a total victory. Everyone is ready to sign their lives away for a shot at the miracle drug. The Guildmaster leads the charge, screaming for the crowd to crush the Empire. The atmosphere is electric as the city prepares for an all-out war. Iris watches from the sidelines, looking visibly annoyed that the Guildmaster is taking all the credit for the achievement. She spots her uncle being dragged away in chains and realizes the guild has turned him into a lab rat. Her companion tries to brush it off, suggesting it is probably just someone who looks like her uncle. Iris stays skeptical, unable to shake the feeling that something is very wrong. Somewhere in the forest, a group of Imperial scouts is waiting for their man to show up. They start wondering if he has switched sides and joined the kingdom, but the leader is not buying it. The leader is convinced that their spy would never betray the Empire because he is the best in the business. He claims the man would choose death before turning into a traitor. The Imperial commander isn't here for games and demands a full report from his top operative. He mocks the man's ragged disguise, but the agent just warns him not to underestimate the target. Introducing Luis Harshes, the Empire's elite spy who has been lurking in the shadows this whole time. He takes a long drag of his cigarette, looking like he has seen way too much during his mission. Luis drops the heavy news that the city of Bolivia is crawling with soldiers. He confirms the kingdom has officially cracked the code on both healing and regeneration medicine. The commander grinds his teeth, admitting that the kingdom actually outplayed them for once. They are gearing up for war with medicine that defies logic, and it is clear the Empire failed to snatch the formula. While Luis claims there's still one last way to get that recipe, he has no idea they have an uninvited guest. Eris is crouching right behind the trees, listening to every word of their secret meeting. Eris is absolutely reeling from the realization that her own uncle has been an Imperial spy this entire time. She tries to bolt and warn Shin, but a loud snap under her boot ruins her stealth mission instantly. The spies are on her in a heartbeat, and the commander orders his men to make sure she doesn't make it back alive. Eris sprints for her life as the Imperial scouts lock onto their new target. Eris is running for her life, but the Empire scouts aren't playing around. One of them gives the cold order to eliminate her as they close the distance. Our girl realizes too late that she's been cornered. A sharp pain shoots through her leg as she's taken down in an instant. The masked scout mocks her lack of experience, explaining that disabling a target is way more effective than a messy headshot. She collapses in the dirt, clutching her bleeding wound while trying to process the pain. Louis stands over her with a cigarette in his mouth, offering a hollow apology for the brutal ambush. Her breath comes in ragged gasps as the adrenaline starts to fade. The scene shifts to the quiet, towering mountains overlooking the forest. Elsewhere, the once bustling market has turned into an eerie ghost town. Shin wanders through the silence until he spots Uncle waiting for him at a deserted stall. Taking a long drag from his cigarette, Uncle notes how quickly the locals cleared out. He seems relieved that the chaos has finally given him the perfect cover to make his own exit. He asks if the situation with the guild finally got settled, but Shin isn't in a forgiving mood. Our boy admits the guild was a lost cause from the start, and says they don't even deserve to be called pharmacists. Shin asks the old man where he is heading next. Uncle just shrugs it off, saying he might join a pirate crew once his fish cleaning skills are top tier. A bowl of ramen hits the table as a final farewell feast. Shin is not complaining since the food looks like a straight 10 out of 10. Between bites, Shin asks what the future holds, but Uncle is more concerned about collecting the mountain of debt our boy owes him. Shin does not even care, chugging the broth and admitting he is going to miss this cooking. Suddenly, the room starts spinning. Shin grabs his head in a panic as he realizes something is very wrong, while Uncle just stands there offering a cold apology. Turns out, Uncle used the very same hallucinogenic mushrooms Shin gave him to spike the food. Our MC is paralyzed on the floor, realizing he just got played by his own ingredients. Uncle drops the mask for good, demanding the secret medicine formulas for the Empire. He explains that the powder acts as a perfect truth serum, leaving Shin with nowhere to hide. The interrogation begins as Uncle reveals he has been an Imperial agent from day one. He demands the recipe for the regeneration medicine while Shin struggles to process the massive betrayal. Shin spits out the antidote like it is nothing and tells the old man to forget it. Uncle starts coughing up his own medicine, realizing our boy isn't playing around anymore. Shin is 10 steps ahead, revealing he had an antidote capsule tucked in his teeth the whole time. Uncle is shaken, struggling to understand how his plan just fell apart. The betrayal was obvious because Uncle was the only one who knew Shin's location when the first ambush happened. Our MC explains that the informant excuse was a flop, and the old man is left asking when he finally got caught. Back in Tangle, Shin spotted an invisible drug trap that would have caught anyone else. He kept his mouth shut to see how far the old man would go, and now Uncle realizes he has been under a microscope for a long time. Only a top-level Imperial operative could have known how to save Shin during that specific crisis. A random traveler would have zero clue about the Empire's internal secrets, making Shin's logic foolproof. Uncle finally drops the act, admitting his goal was to keep those miracle drugs out of the kingdom's hands. He never expected Shin to track him down to Tanjil, and the frustration is hitting him hard now. Shin asks if the old man is planning to end him, but then reveals the kingdom already secured the formulas. Uncle suddenly drops into a bow, catching our MC off guard. Uncle drops his pride and hits the floor, begging our boy for those secret formulas. He is convinced that giving the Empire this medicine is the only way to stop the war for good. Shin is not convinced, asking if stopping the conflict just means letting the Empire dominate the whole world. He is looking for the catch in this supposedly peaceful plan. The old man argues that medical equality would create a deterrent, making both sides think twice before attacking. He believes that a military balance is the only way to maintain a fragile peace. Back at the stand, Shin notes that the Empire seems hungry for blood regardless of the balance. Uncle insists that Prince Michael is a different breed and has no interest in starting a war. It turns out the Empire's third prince is actually head over heels for Princess Almesia. What started as a political deal for power became a genuine romance for the young prince. He paints the prince as a genuinely honorable man and believes a successful union between the two royals would make everyone happy. In his mind, their marriage is the key to preventing a major disaster. With sweat pouring down, Uncle begs Shin one last time to save the prince from a tragic end. He is desperate to keep the prince's feelings from being crushed by the wheels of war. A major what-if from the past. Shin mentions that if someone like this had been around 7 years ago, Tango might have actually survived. Sentiment is cool and all, but the formulas are still a hard pass. Shin knows a band-aid won't stop the Empire from coming back for round 2 eventually. Pure desperation mode. The old man is convinced that a royal wedding is the only way out, and that Shin's miracle potions are the last hope for peace. Dropping some cold facts, Shin points out that the second a healing potion starts fueling a war, it loses the entire reason it was even created. The end of an era. Shin offers a casual wave and a thank you for years of skewers, while Uncle realizes his role in this game is finally finished. Hold on, the plot thickens. Instead of the formula, Shin offers to spill the tea on the shady secret behind the new medicine. The kingdom is flexing. Tia is ready to crash, but her dad Eldar is glued to his tablet. He claims that monitoring the world below is a vital part of his divine duties. A massive war is about to pop off between the kingdom and the Empire, and Tia is genuinely stressed about Shin getting caught in the crossfire. Eldar just chuckles at the screen. He thinks Shin is the unluckiest man alive despite receiving some low-key blessings at the start. To be fair, Shin did his best to dodge the conflict, but the greed of those in power is just too deep to stop. Tia thinks her dad is vibing with the drama a bit too much. Eldar just laughs it off and admits that watching Shin struggle is his favorite form of entertainment. A quick look back reveals that before he was a potion master, Shin was just Tudo Yuyuki, an average office worker grinding in Japan. Back during the reincarnation, Eldar gave him 2 distinct options for how he wanted to start his new life. Option A offered a direct reincarnation with all his past memories and a solid growth boost. It was the perfect setup for someone wanting to hit the ground running in a new world. Option B would have let him enjoy a normal childhood until age 10, while offering even crazier potential for growth later on. But our boy was in a hurry and chose to skip the wait. Shin chose the first path and picked utility skills like composition analysis just to stay out of trouble. The goddess notes that even his blessings show how much he just wanted a quiet life. Looking at an old photo, Tia realizes how much he cherished his second chance. He looked truly at peace with his new parents and sister. The truth is, Shin lost his original family in a tragic plane crash back in his university days. He had been carrying that loneliness with him until the day he was reborn. That warmth of a real home was the one thing he longed for most. For a moment, he actually found the happiness he had lost. Tia admits that even gods aren't omnipotent enough to control every single life and death. The observers can only watch, noting how cruel it is that he had to experience the same grief twice. With a flick of his wrist, Eldar discards the view screen, admitting that human destiny is far beyond a god's control. The perspective shifts back to the mortals as the next stage of the drama begins. Having a home to return to is the ultimate luxury. Back at the base, Uncle can tell the vibe has shifted. He asks if Shin actually has some positive news for once. Shin demands a strict 3-day delay after the kingdom's army makes their move. Uncle is skeptical of the timeline, but the confirmation is absolute. Then he drops the ultimate trap. Once that timer hits 0, every single potion the guild manufactured is going to lose its magic. The sheer scale of the sabotage is enough to make anyone's head spin. The entire war effort is effectively built on a foundation of sand. It turns out the recipe was a ticking time bomb from the start. Without the final stabilization step, those miracle cures become useless garbage after 72 hours. Uncle is sweating bullets, realizing the kingdom could straight up lose the war if their potions fail. Shin just stays chill, reminding him that the Empire won't be having a good time either. The plan is to let the fighting drag out long enough to force everyone to the negotiation table. Since war is basically guaranteed now, Shin is focusing on the one thing that matters, minimizing the damage. Uncle doesn't get why Shin is sharing all this or why he didn't just tip off the guild. Shin knows if the army stays put, this town is just a giant target. Keeping the soldiers here would turn this place into a literal battlefield for the Empire to destroy. Civilians would be caught in the crossfire, and that is a hard no. Shin gives him the cold truth. He does not care if the soldiers kill each other, but civilians are off limits. Uncle is completely stunned by the logic. He admits he is not even close to being convinced by this wild gamble. Uncle is sweating bullets, demanding to know what Shin is actually cooking in that head of his. Our boy just keeps it chill and offers to finally break down the plan. The town stays dead quiet as the two of them face off in the middle of the street. Uncle is still waiting for the truth, but the atmosphere is heavy with unspoken secrets. Uncle finally understands the gravity of the situation and hits a total mental wall. Shin walks away, promising to use his leverage to keep the civilians out of the crossfire. Shin is definitely curious to see if this General Alarcon actually lives up to the hype. He is setting a high bar for what is about to go down. When Uncle asks about the next move, Shin decides to stick around and watch the chaos unfold. He tosses a mysterious scroll over, leaving the old man completely caught off guard. The scroll is a special permit with a unique seal. Shin tells him to drop the name Louis Harchis if things ever get too spicy with the guards. Uncle gets absolutely roasted about his bald head in the middle of this serious moment. He insists he shaves it on purpose, but the cool vibe is already dead. Uncle keeps it short and sweet. Don't die. Shin just waves him off without looking back. You neither, old man. Elsewhere, Eris is having a rough time waking up. Someone is calling out to her as she slowly opens her eyes in a dim room. The shop boy is hovering over her, relieved she is finally conscious. He explains that the old cook found her passed out and sent for help. Eris freezes, the pieces finally clicking into place. Her face drops as the terrifying truth hits her. That old man is an Imperial spy. The boy can only watch as panic takes over. She tries to scramble to her feet, but her legs give out immediately. Her body is completely paralyzed. Desperate to sound the alarm, she insists they have to warn everyone before the war starts. The boy just looks down, tears streaming down his face. It is too late. He drops the bombshell that the army left days ago. The war is already over, and the kingdom has been utterly destroyed. Eris stares into nothing, her entire reality coming apart. A quiet day in town. People move through the streets as the local shops prepare for business. Shin chills at a tavern, catching up on the news while he eats. The room is packed with people recovering from the war. The piece ends when a hand slams onto the table. Newspaper headlines reveal that the guild's medicine failed to stop the enemy advance. The alchemist guildmaster is having a meltdown. He confronts Shin about the regeneration potion, while the rest of the tavern watches the drama unfold. Our boy just keeps eating. He looks bored as he asks what the guild's failing potions have to do with him. The guildmaster is on the verge of a breakdown. He claims the useless potion caused the army to retreat and tries to pin the blame on Shin. Shin stands up and snaps back. He mocks the idea that he is responsible for a product the guild claimed as their own after years of effort. Shin hits him with the ultimate trap card, revealing his recipe was actually stolen. The guildmaster can only stammer as the MC starts explaining how he set the bait. Standing on the table with zero chill, he points a fork right at the man's face. He reminds the boss exactly how they met and what was said that day. Our boy flashes a newspaper headline about the guild's big discovery. The guildmaster looks like he is about to pass out from the pressure. Then comes the real kicker. The stolen recipe was a defective batch that only lasts 3 days. The guildmaster loses it, realizing he has been peddling garbage this whole time. Shin holds up a vial, mocking the pathetic state of the guild's supposedly masterpiece product. The boss is so tilted, he is biting his hat in silent rage. He leans back and asks if the story about the guildmaster's hard work was just one big lie. He puts it plainly, asking if they just used the recipe that was snatched from him. With a terrifying smirk, he asks for confirmation. The guildmaster is left speechless, covering his mouth as the weight of his fraud finally hits home. The guildmaster is having a full-blown meltdown while our boy just walks out the door. He is sweating bullets as his fake reputation goes up in smoke. He tries to beg for a second chance, but the MC is already gone. Things go from bad to worse as a group of injured soldiers corners the corrupt boss. They are not happy about the garbage medicine that failed them on the battlefield. It is a certified disaster for the lying guild leader. As news of the Empire invasion hits the streets, the city descends into chaos. People are loading up carriages and fleeing before the gates are locked down. Shin watches the panic from the shadows, ready to disappear into the night. Waiting in the moonlight is a mysterious girl who has been keeping tabs on him. She asks if he is really bouncing for good, but he just keeps walking. He wonders if the guards have already abandoned their posts in the confusion. He admits that his work here is officially done with a casual shrug. Then the mood shifts as he looks her right in the eye. He asks if she is truly okay with this, calling her by the name Iris for the first time. The truth comes out as he continues walking away. He points out how weird it is for a kingdom knight to just abandon her duty of protecting the princess. She stands there stunned as her cover is blown. She drops the act with a frustrated sigh and a goofy face. She admits he figured her out and wants to know exactly when he caught on to her. The masks are off and the real conversation is finally starting. Shin reveals he saw through her act from the very beginning. Real scouts never sleep without an ear to the ground, and he even did a background check with the doctor in her hometown. She is not exactly thrilled that her whole cover was basically a joke to him. He gives her some parting advice on how to actually lie, suggesting she needs to believe her own act first. It is clear that being a double agent is not her calling. She is totally done with the role anyway and swears she is never doing it again. Things get serious as he asks if the only reason she got close was to swipe his recipes. She admits the truth with a heavy heart. It was never personal, just a mission for the sake of the princess. Flashback time. She explains how life as a high-potential orphan usually ends with a one-way ticket to a military facility. It was the standard path for kids like her who had nothing else. A major turning point arrived when she turned 12, thanks to a recommendation from Knight Commander Rex. She was pulled from training to serve as a trainee attendant for Princess Almesia. Against all odds, the princess accepted her without any judgment. She did not care about the orphanage background and treated the girl like a member of her own family. Then the Empire invasion changed the entire game. In a desperate bid to protect the throne, the kingdom set its sights on the mysterious pharmacist and the legendary medicine recipes he was rumored to be hiding. She admits that her whole mission was built on the fact that she was a woman who could easily get close to the pharmacist. It was all a calculated move from the start. Shin just shrugs it off, like he expected the betrayal, and starts walking away. Iris is completely thrown by his chill reaction and asks why he is not even trying to blame her. Our boy keeps it real and admits he gave her fake recipes because he has zero interest in picking sides in a war. He does not think his medicine was even that useful to begin with. The vibes get aggressive fast when she draws her blade to block his path. She is not letting him just walk away from this situation. She starts tearing up while explaining that the princess will just be a political pawn if the kingdom falls. She is literally begging him to help because she cannot let that happen. The waterworks are in full effect as she asks for just one more favor. Shin stays silent for a moment before telling her that even giving up requires a solid reason. Shin finally gives in and tells her to come at him. He is ready to see what she is made of, and she grips her sword tight for the next move. Iris goes all out with a high-speed rapier lunge, but our boy barely has to move to dodge. He shuts down her assault and forces her into a desperate close-quarter struggle. She can't believe how easily he's reading her every move. Shin tells her straight up to give up because there's zero chance she can win this. Iris isn't having it though, gritting her teeth and refusing to be underestimated. She pulls a fast one by smashing a speed potion to catch him off guard. The sudden burst of movement gives her the split-second opening she was looking for. Shin asks if she really thought he wouldn't react to such a basic trick. Iris knew he would, as her real target from the start was his heart. A desperate scream echoes as she makes her final move. The gamble ends in a sharp clash of steel as their speeds collide. The smoke clears and Iris is left gasping on the ground after the impact. Shin stands over her completely unbothered by her desperate tactics. Reality finally hits as Iris realizes she never stood a chance against him. Shin delivers the cold truth before walking away, leaving her calling out for her princess in the dirt. This time it's a real farewell. Flashback to a time when Almesia accidentally broke a vase and cut her hand. Iris immediately rushes to her side in a panic, but the princess is more focused on making sure her knight does not get hurt while cleaning up the mess. The princess insists on handling the cleanup herself despite her own injury. She flashes a warm smile, explaining that seeing Iris suffer any pain for her sake is far more agonizing than a small cut. Iris snaps back to the present with a scream of defiance, launching herself into a desperate lunge. Our boy is forced on the defensive by the sudden explosion of speed as she refuses to let her light go out. The struggle ends with Iris pinned in the dirt, but her spirit is nowhere near broken. Even with her back against the ground, she yells that she will just keep getting back up until she wins. Shin finally voices the question he has been holding back, asking if this kingdom is actually worth her life. Iris screams that it absolutely is, because the princess was the only one who ever showed her what real strength looks like. For an orphan who had nothing, Almesia was the light that changed her entire world. She believes that if she gives up now, there will be nobody left to shine a light on the future of this country. The fight reaches its end with Iris gasping in the dirt, her tears finally starting to flow as the defeat sinks in. Shin stands over her in silence as the weight of her words clashes with his own bitter memories of a home that was not protected. The trauma of Tangirl finally breaks through the surface as Shin demands to know why his home was left to burn. He is done holding back the resentment he has carried for his lost family. A heavy silence falls over the ruins while the past and present collide. The true cost of his loss is finally out in the open as the destruction stares them both in the face. Iris wonders if his heart is filled with nothing but pure hatred for the kingdom. Shin is just looking for a reason to keep moving forward in a world that took everything from him. It turns out our boy has been burying his pain so deep that it is literally eating him alive. Iris finally sees the lonely road he has been walking this whole time, carrying a burden that no one was meant to bear alone. Iris cuts through the drama with a sharp reality check that catches him completely off guard. She is officially done letting him drown in his own head. She is not letting him play the victim when the world is full of people who have lost everything. It is time for him to realize he does not have a monopoly on suffering, and his main character complex ends right here. The vibe shifts completely when Iris reveals she has zero memories of her own family. She reminds a shell-shocked Shin that even a painful memory is a blessing compared to the total void she has lived with her entire life. Iris declares that she refuses to let Shin remain chained to his past any longer. Our boy is not feeling the pep talk and calls her out for acting like a wise sage while meddling in his life. He scoffs and asks if she is really that ready to just abandon the memory of his lost home. Iris resolves to free his heart from its chains even as she breaks down in tears. Shin is completely triggered and yells from off-screen, asking if she is finally satisfied now that she is acting just like the kingdom she serves. Shin insists he is absolutely nothing like the people who ruined his world and screams for her to stop messing with him. He vows that it will never happen while Iris just stares at the ground in silence as her tears fall. We open on a map showing we are half a day from Tangirl Town. Below, the Imperial Army has set up a sprawling camp as their new base of operations. The soldiers are already in full party mode, raising their mugs and shouting "Long live the Empire." They are clearly feeling themselves after their latest major win. Lewis is keeping it low-key on a hill, puffing on a cigarette while he watches the celebration from a distance. His comrades eventually catch up to him and try to push some victory wine his way. They notice he is acting like a major buzzkill despite the successful mission. They are laughing about how the kingdom got scammed by their own medicine. It turns out the miracle cure was just a defective dud that wears off in only 3 days. The mood shifts when Louis hears that General Alarcon is moving toward Bolivia tomorrow. He is not happy at all, since that was definitely not what they agreed on. An old advisor suspects Shin might have switched sides to help the kingdom. Louis just shakes his head, knowing our boy is not the type to play for either team. Louis sits back, pondering the news about the woman they captured. It turns out she already crossed paths with the pharmacist in Bolivia. The advisor is not impressed with his hesitation. He calls Louis naive and says the pharmacist should have been eliminated as soon as they got the intel. According to the old man, every potential threat must be erased. He believes this is the only way for the Empire to secure a clean victory. Louis takes a long drink to end the conversation. They pack up and prepare to move out immediately. The advisor continues to mock Shin, calling him a lonely and pitiful man. He thinks it is pathetic that everything the kid trusted turned out to be a lie. Louis keeps his eyes closed as he reflects on their bond. He knows Shin is the type of guy who would have treated him with kindness even if he knew the truth. While Louis lights up a cigarette, the old man just bursts out laughing. He cannot believe someone could be such a fool. Louis and his comrades sit on a cliffside, watching the sunset over the jagged mountain range. As night falls, the city of Atwald glows under a cold moon, completely unaware of the storm brewing. High above the town, a scout keeps a sharp eye on the castle through his binoculars. He reports that the woman failed to take the medicine by force, leading to a fatal confrontation between her and the pharmacist. The report turns grim, as the scout confirms that Shin ended up stabbing the woman to death in the wasteland. Shin just sits there slumped over the body, seemingly lost in the aftermath of his own choice. Our boy stares at a discarded potion cup, likely regretting the fact that his miracle medicine was too little, too late. Watching from a distance, the Imperial officer wonders if reality is finally setting in for him. The masked assassin is not impressed, calling Shin a weak coward for letting a foolish woman play him like a fiddle. To them, he is just a pathetic shadow of the man they expected him to be. Deciding it is time to end the drama, the assassin gives the signal to move. They leap from the castle wall with their sword drawn, ready to erase the pharmacist once and for all. The killer lunges with a lethal strike, but Shin dodges the blade with zero effort. He looks up with a cold, bored stare, asking if they are actually with the Empire while the assassin freezes in shock. One of the assassins gets sent flying by a heavy kick. Shin just turns his back on the rest of the squad like they aren't even worth his time. The killers are talking mad trash, thinking a simple pharmacist is easy pickings. They think the Empire's squad is untouchable until Shin actually starts groaning from the pressure. Not even a challenge. Our boy stands over a defeated enemy with a look of pure boredom, calling the whole operation pathetic. Suddenly, one of them manages to get a lock on him from behind. This guy admits Shin is way more dangerous than he looks, and he was right to be paranoid. The vibe takes a dark turn as the assassin reveals a chest full of explosives. He's ready to end it all just to make sure Shin doesn't walk away. Out of nowhere, Iris lunges in with a blade, but the assassin loses his mind. He screams for her to stop because one spark is going to blow them all to the moon. With the danger gone, Shin just looks at her and casually drops a thank you. Iris is standing there buffering, having no clue how she even got there or why she's still breathing. Iris realized her body moved instinctively to save Shin, but she was still processing the fact that she actually survived. Our boy snapped and charged forward with a needle in hand, refusing to let her play with his emotions any longer. Enraged, he demanded she take back her words, hating the comparison to the corrupt nobles he despised. Iris did not flinch, screaming that choosing to do nothing despite having the power to save others made him just as bad as those he hated. She stood her ground as he lunged, daring him to finally voice his hatred for the country that failed him. Shin let out a frustrated grunt as Iris simply closed her eyes, waiting for the impact of his strike. Instead of striking, our MC pulled her into a desperate embrace, finally admitting that no amount of hatred would bring his family back. A sudden gasp escapes Iris as a blade pierces through her chest from behind. Shin's eyes go wide in horror as he watches the life start to drain out of her. Iris whispers that hating him would have been so much easier as she collapses into his arms. Shin screams in agony, demanding to know why she didn't even try to move. She clings to him, claiming this is better because she wants to take all his buried hatred upon herself. Every bit of the poison he has been holding is now hers to carry. Tears and blood mix as Iris begs him to use his strength to save everyone from the fires of war. This is her final wish for the man she could not hate. Shin feels her go limp in his arms as her body finally gives out. He screams her name, but all he hears is the cold sound of her sword clattering against the dirt. Refusing to accept it, Shin presses his blood-soaked hands against the wound in a desperate attempt to stop the bleeding. He begs her to stay with him, but she remains chillingly silent. Broken and kneeling, Shin can only repeat the word please as her earlier words echo in his mind like a curse. She called him a coward for doing nothing, and now he is forced to face the weight of that truth. Our boy locks in with a look of pure determination despite the blood on his face. Shin preps the heavy hitters, mixing ancient leaves with both healing and regeneration medicine. The final piece is a magic dragon heart to complete the ultimate potion. He begins an ancient chant, begging the spirit of the mighty tree and the dragon heart to ignite. He needs this to become the spark of life that brings her back. Shin supports Iris and carefully pours the glowing medicine into her mouth. He watches intently as she takes a shallow gulp, hoping it is not too late. He leans in for a direct medicine transfer. Our MC is doing everything he can to make sure this elixir actually hits her system. Suddenly, massive white wings unfurl around Iris as she floats in a state of prayer. The divine energy is off the charts as her life force begins to reset. The magical heart above them starts beating with a steady rhythm. That solid thump means the miracle is working and her soul is staying put. Iris wakes up and realizes she actually made it. She can hardly believe Shin's medicine really pulled her back from the edge. Shin is just relieved his high-stakes move worked out. On the other side, Iris is suddenly acting super weird and hiding her face. The realization hits her like a freight train. She really just kissed Shin. It might have been for medical reasons, but her brain is short-circuiting over losing her first kiss to this guy. Our boy tries to be a professional and offers a formal apology. He explains that mouth-to-mouth was the only way to save her since she was unresponsive. She completely loses it, screaming at him to shut up and stop reminding her. A scenic shift later, they hit the road with Shin leading the horse. Iris finally asks about the miracle drug, and he casually reveals it was a legendary elixir. Iris is losing her mind because she realizes Shin used a legendary elixir on her. This kind of medicine is a total myth that can heal literally anything. Our boy just laughs it off and admits he whipped it up on the spot. Iris is stunned, unable to process how someone could be this ridiculously talented. She asks why he would go so far to save her life. Shin keeps it 100, admitting he respects her dedication to the princess. On the road, he makes his stance very clear. He refuses to pick a side or let his potions be used as weapons of war. She acknowledges his cold rules with a somber nod. Regardless of allegiance, he admits he simply did not want her or the old man to die. Iris is stunned by this sudden flash of genuine kindness. The emotions finally boil over, and Iris grabs onto him with a tearful apology. She is genuinely thankful to have been saved. Even though the past still haunts him, Shin refuses to let more families be destroyed. If the princess is for real about ending the war, he is willing to help out one last time. A soft moment of gratitude passes between them before they focus back on the mission. The decision is made, and there is no turning back now. Out on the stone path, the duo takes a moment to survey their surroundings and plan the next move. Time is running out, so our boy decides it is time to skip the middlemen. He wants to have a word with the person who holds all the cards. The audacity of his plan leaves a heavy tension in the air. This dude is ready to walk straight into the center of power and deal with the highest authority himself. Inside the Imperial camp, Prince Michael greets Louis with a relieved hug. Louis apologizes for failing to stop the war, but the prince is just happy his man made it back safely. The mood shifts as a high-ranking female officer addresses Louis for a formal briefing. She prepares to present the battle report to His Highness and asks for permission to continue. Gathered around the war table, she details how they struck the kingdom right as their healing potions wore off. The plan worked perfectly, forcing the enemy to retreat to a city called Bolivia. With the momentum on their side, the officer announces that the Imperial Army is launching a full-scale assault by tomorrow morning. Louis is not feeling the plan and calls out the violation of their secret agreement. He reminds them that Shin only shared info because they promised to keep civilians out of the line of fire. The general waves it off, claiming the civilians already cleared out so the damage will be minimal. Louis slams the table in frustration and tells him to stop talking nonsense. He warns that this invasion will only lead to more losses and a total stalemate. If they keep pushing, the entire war will turn into a never-ending mess that swallows everyone whole. The female officer shuts Louis down hard, reminding him that overstepping his rank is a one-way ticket to a court-martial. Louis has no choice but to swallow his pride and offer a bitter apology. Prince Michael looks over at Louis with concern as the tension in the room thickens. General Alarcon breaks the silence, stating that his job is not just about finishing this fight. Sitting before the Imperial banner, the general makes it clear that he is only here to lead the Empire to total victory. Michael respects the general's authority but drops a bombshell by announcing he will be leading the front lines himself. The general can only stare back in stunned silence at the prince's reckless resolve. The room goes into a complete meltdown as everyone from Louis to the high command reacts in shock. Michael stands his ground, explaining that a direct meeting with the enemy commander is their only real shot at peace. Louis tries to talk some sense into him, yelling that putting a prince on the front lines is pure insanity. Michael knows it is a gamble, but he is willing to risk his life if it means finally ending the bloodshed. A soldier bursts into the tent with an urgent report that changes everything. Someone claiming to be a kingdom commander has just surrendered, and he is waiting right outside. A supposed commander from the kingdom army walks right into the enemy camp and offers to surrender. The guards aren't taking any chances and keep their blades ready while they bring him before the general. General Alarcon is immediately suspicious, demanding to know if this was a group decision or just a solo play. He isn't interested in games and wants the real reason behind the sudden betrayal. The commander explains that he is acting alone because the kingdom is a sinking ship. He even offers to lead the Imperial Army straight to the royal capital if they cooperate with him. The room goes quiet as everyone processes the massive offer on the table. One of the officers is disgusted by the display and asks if they are seriously going to trust the word of a cowardly traitor. The act finally drops as the commander reveals his true colors with a sudden and brutal assault. He drops the guards in seconds, moving with a level of speed that catches the entire room off guard. He makes a break for the prince with a stolen sword, leaving the high command in a complete panic. Everyone scrambles to block the path as the assassin shouts his intent to end the invaders. General Alarcon puts a definitive end to the chaos with one lightning-fast strike that slices right through the traitor. Alarcon ends the traitor's rampage with a single strike, leaving him coughing up blood on the floor. Michael watches the scene with wide eyes, barely able to whisper the general's name. The dying commander doesn't back down, telling the prince that peace can only be taken through force. He looks right at Michael and calls him out for being way too naive for this world. Alarcon stands by coldly, while the traitor delivers one final warning about the price of kindness. He claims that being soft will only bring disaster to the soldiers and the people alike. A soldier rushes over to secure the prince and pulls him away from the body. Michael struggles to catch his breath, his eyes fixed on the floor as he remains frozen in place. The general keeps his guard up while Michael looks away in silence. His thoughts drift to his promise to Shin as the scene shifts to the main Imperial camp under the moonlight. The Imperial headquarters is a sprawling maze of tents and torches. Shin scouts the area from a distance with his binoculars, confirming he's finally found the enemy's main base. Iris regroups with our MC in the woods and gives him the rundown on the situation. She reports that the entire camp is locked down tight, and there's no way to sneak in past the guards. Shin decides to stop playing around and announces he is going to charge the front gate alone. Iris immediately starts tweaking, calling him out for being reckless. Refusing to stay behind, she jumps on her horse and tells him she is coming along for the ride. The vibe shifts when she tries to grab her gear and realizes her arms have turned to lead. She collapses straight into the dirt, feeling like she is pinned down by gravity. Shin just watches her struggle, casually explaining that the medicine he gave her might have a few heavy side effects. He benches her by placing his hat on her head, telling her she needs a couple days of bed rest. She is not happy about being left behind, but her body is not giving her a choice. Looking out at the sea of enemy tents, our boy points out that he is the one the Empire is actually hunting anyway. Iris still thinks he is throwing his life away, insisting no amount of magic medicine can take on an entire army. Shin just gives her a calm look and reaches into his coat, mentioning a secret trump card he has been saving. Her eyes go wide as he finally pulls it out, left speechless by what she sees. With a sharp smirk, our MC prepares to show the Empire exactly why you do not mess with a legendary apothecary. Night falls on the Imperial camp, where the gate is locked down tight under the watchful eyes of the guards. The sentries are already counting their chickens, bragging about how victory is guaranteed once they hit Bolivia in the morning, but the gossip stops quick when they spot a shadow approaching the gate. Turns out the Empire is running a bit low on supplies, leaving the new recruits standing guard on empty stomachs. Our boy Shin rolls up to the front gate rocking a low-key merchant disguise and some sketchy round glasses. He claims he is just a traveling medicine man with some top-tier goods for the general. The guards try to play it tough, but Shin just flashes a permit that has them literally vibrating with fear. One look at that scroll, and their attitudes do a complete 180. They go from hostile to humble real fast, practically bowing as they let our MC walk right through the front door. Shin just adjusts his shades with a smirk, glad the connection actually came through. Inside the walls, the place is basically a rowdy frat party as the soldiers chug drinks to hype themselves up for the morning raid. Shin tries to keep his head down, but a massive bald dude is already giving him the side eye. Surrounded by guards, our boy plays it cool with his hands up. He claims to be a humble merchant looking to cooperate with the Empire. A drunk soldier gets in his face, demanding a potion that is actually worth his time. Shin ignores the booze breath and pulls out a mysterious flask. He promises the brew will turn the guy into a legend. One sip later, and the soldier is chugging it down while Shin flashes a dark smirk. Bro starts hulking out as his muscles double in size and his shirt rips apart. He feels like a god, but he has no idea he will be paralyzed by muscle soreness tomorrow morning. Now the whole squad is hyped and wants a taste of that magic juice. Shin plays hard to get, mentioning how hungry he is after his long journey. The big guy immediately orders his men to bring the merchant some bread. Shin stops him, asking for the location of the food storage so he can just help himself. The soldier points him toward the tent with the red flag and wishes him luck. Our boy thanks him and heads straight for his real target. The thirsty soldiers swarm our boy, begging for any magic juice they can get their hands on. One guy even asks for a love potion, proving some things never change, even on the front lines. Shin plays along, flashing a confident grin as he promises to whip up the legendary stuff. He starts mixing blue and red liquids while the crowd watches with wide eyes, thinking they are about to become gods. Instead of a power-up, the mixture straight up detonates into a massive smoke cloud. While the soldiers scream about their burning eyes and total blindness, Shin casually slips away into the chaos. Sneaking into the supply tent, our boy eyes the crates with a plan. He realizes that a little chemical warfare in the food supply could basically end the fight before it even starts. He finds a stash of corn and starts judging their diet, but his internal monologue is cut short by a cold presence. A high-ranking female officer suddenly looms behind him, making his heart skip a beat. She calls him a rat and orders him to get out with zero hesitation. Shin is panicking internally, wondering if he should drop the merchant act and just start swinging. A couple of actual recruits show up trembling and kneeling before her, accidentally giving Shin a cover story. He stammers out a yes, playing the part of a terrified newbie to keep his mission alive. She doesn't hold back, dropping the bombshell that stealing from the warehouse is a one-way ticket to the gallows. Those who don't follow the rules become burdens on the battlefield. She points out that the newcomer seems to be here just to organize the supplies, getting a nervous confirmation from the nearby soldiers. Shifting her focus, she orders them to take some food to the hungry gate guards and clear out. The recruits scramble away while the officer turns her attention back to the suspicious worker left behind. She notes that she doesn't recall inviting any guests, confirming Shin's fear that his cover is completely blown. She confronts him about the permit from Lewis, and he tries to play it off by claiming he was just hungry. Her response is a cold stare as her hand goes straight for the hilt of her blade. A sudden flash of steel sends a shockwave through the room, but the blade doesn't find its mark in his chest. Instead, she pins a massive bloodied rat to the wood right next to his head. Introducing herself as Ryan Margaret, she casually offers the skewered rodent as if it were a high-class meal. This dude is left holding the mangled critter with a look of pure horror, asking if he is actually supposed to eat it. Looking at the officer, our boy realizes his assumptions about the Empire's cruelty might be slightly off. She explains that she isn't the one with the twisted mindset, though she wouldn't bet on the general feeling the same way. Our boy stares down his questionable dinner while Ryan tells him to hurry up. No time for a proper meal when the big boss is waiting. Inside the tent, General Alarcon is sitting with his chin on his hands. He looks bored and tells Shin he is ready to see the medicine. Our boy drops to a formal bow to show some respect, introducing himself as a simple traveling merchant. He keeps his cool under the watchful eyes of the guards. The general brings up a report from Lewis about his elite skills. Shin just scratches his head and admits that even the kingdom was desperate for his formulas. Alarcon isn't easily impressed, claiming the Empire would win this war even without his help. He leans in with a sharp gaze, ordering Shin to present his goods. The general reaches for an apple while questioning if this is all just a poison trap. Shin ignores the threat and starts opening his heavy crate to get down to business. He pulls out a single flask filled with a glowing liquid. This is his restoration medicine, and he is ready to hand it over to the Empire. Shin just flipped the script, claiming his medicine can bring back limbs that have been gone for years. The room goes silent as the impossible weight of that claim sinks in for everyone present. Lewis knows our boy isn't the type to play games without a motive. The general sees right through the merchant act, sensing a much bigger play behind the offer. Alarcon understands that a man with this much power usually has an even bigger agenda. He calls for an immediate appraisal, refusing to take anyone's word at face value. The expert gets his hands on the liquid and immediately realizes they are dealing with something from another world. This isn't just medicine, it is a miracle that defies every rule they know. While the recovery time is a few months, the actual creation process is a complete mystery to the Empire's brightest minds. The general is already thinking about scaling this up, but the appraiser can barely process the sheer genius in the bottle. Money and status are on the table, with the general ready to give up anything to secure the formula. Shin remains cold as ice, making it clear that his goals are far beyond simple greed. The ultimate demand finally comes out, catching the entire room off guard. Our boy isn't looking for a paycheck, he is here to shut down the entire war. Lewis is practically begging the general for a peaceful solution, arguing that having Shin on their side makes the kingdom's resistance a total waste of time. He tells the commander that this is their one big chance to finally make peace. Prince Michael jumps into the conversation to back him up. He suggests that if him and the Princess marry, relations with the kingdom will finally improve. Our boy casually realizes he is talking to a prince and asks if he should put in a good word for him with the princess. Louis has a total meltdown over the lack of respect, but Shin just mocks him for suddenly acting so high and mighty. The plan takes a weird turn when Shin suggests the general should offer a gigant boar as a peace gift. Michael and Lewis are completely lost, with Lewis even wondering if a gigant boar is just the name of a beautiful flower. The general agrees that the marriage will happen, but he is not exactly feeling the love. He pulverizes an apple in his bare hand, declaring that peace only comes after they destroy the capital first. With a terrifying look in his eyes, the general makes his true goal clear to everyone in the room. He says that peace will only come when the kingdom becomes part of the empire. Shin isn't intimidated and calls the general a dangerous medicine that is toxic to both nations. Louis tries to silence him but eventually just hangs his head, offering a quiet apology for his leader's cold-blooded nature. Shin decides he has seen enough and tells the group that he finally understands his uncle's struggle. He realizes exactly where the rot in this world is coming from and prepares to walk away for good. The general refuses to let his target just walk out the door. Lady Ryan steps forward and activates a massive magic circle right under our MC's feet, catching him completely off guard. She commands the gates to open and release her power. Heavy iron chains burst from the ground and instantly start pinning the alchemist down before he can even think about escaping. Our boy is stuck fast to the floor. Alarcon watches him struggle and calls it a waste of time, boasting that Ryan is the finest user of binding magic in the entire empire. Prince Michael is losing it, demanding an explanation for the sudden trap. The general just keeps it cool, arguing that it is better to keep their guest locked up than let him join the kingdom. The general admits that they want to force him to work for the empire one day because his talent is too valuable to lose. Shin stares him down from the dirt and gives him a flat rejection. Lady Ryan thinks the alchemist is way too dangerous to keep alive and suggests they just end him right now. Louis tells her to stay in her lane, while Shin can only curse his luck while pinned to the floor. The general is done with the talk and orders Lady Ryan to haul our boy away. She tells the guards to dump him with the rebels until the next transport ship to the Empire arrives. Shin gets tossed into a cell like a sack of potatoes, landing hard on the cold floor. Ryan makes it clear he is just a slave now, but Shin still has the nerve to ask for some five-star prisoner treatment. Sitting behind bars, he starts questioning the general's attitude. He wonders why a guy like Alarcon is so arrogant that he even ignores the prince. Lady Ryan immediately snaps back, defending her leader's honor. She claims the general is a kind-hearted patriot and tells Shin to stop comparing him to pampered royalty. She goes full hype mode, declaring that Alarcon is one of the 5 strongest warriors in the entire empire. To her, this guy is a legend and a hero of the state. Shin isn't buying the hype and jokes that with a personality that dry, no girl would ever want him. Big mistake because Ryan is across the room and at his throat before he can even blink. With a look that could kill, she makes it clear that anyone insulting her general is catching a one-way ticket to the afterlife. Our MC is left trembling as the vibe goes from interrogation to execution in record time. Ryan is fuming about the prisoner's treatment, but a guard interrupts with a message that Alarcon wants her at the stables. She tries to cool her head, knowing she is one bad vibe away from losing it on our boy. The news that the general wants a private chat catches her off guard, leaving her stunned. She can only mutter a confused response while her brain tries to process the sudden invitation. Ryan officially heads out to meet her boss, ordering the guards to keep a tight lock on the cell. She walks away in a daze, wondering what the general could possibly want to talk about. Back in the cell, Shin takes a breather and tries to plan his next move after that close call. His internal monologue is cut short when a creepy laugh echoes from the shadows behind him. Dioris Granga makes his grand entrance, looking remarkably unbothered for someone who should be dead. Shin doesn't even flinch, casually thanking him for the hospitality. Dioris starts cackling from the shadows, surprisingly hyped to see our boy is still breathing. Dioris is all smiles about the reunion, but Shin is not feeling the love and hits him with some heavy sarcasm. Dioris wonders how a big shot ended up in a dump like this, only for a mysterious masked inmate to chime in about a failed rebellion. The mask comes off to reveal Iris, who apparently snuck in after hearing the gossip from some Imperial soldiers. Iris mentions how her assassin training helped her sneak in, while Shin admits he would be in even worse trouble if she had not intervened. Iris wants the tea on the general, while Shin just sighs over the fact that their peace plan crashed and burned exactly as expected. Dioris mocks their new partnership, but Shin is just thinking about the stubborn opponent waiting for them outside. Shin is just listening as the masked dude breaks down the political mess inside the empire. Apparently not everyone is happy about General Alarcon's fast track to the top. The guy explains that he was actually hired by high-ranking officials who are salty about the general's fame. It is a classic move where the elite start eating their own just to protect their status. He starts cackling while Shin and Iris look on in shock. According to him, the whole rebellion was just a setup that ended in a total disaster. On the open sea, Prince Michael is posted up on the deck of a heavy warship. He is finally closing in on his destination, thinking about his mother as the end of the trip comes into sight. A female officer reports that the main army has already ditched them to move forward. Michael is basically stranded with just a few guards, but he stays calm and orders them to set sail anyway. The aide asks if he is feeling okay, but Michael just brushes it off. Before he can even finish his thought, a terrifying laugh echoes across the deck as a masked figure suddenly appears. It is a full-on ambush as Dioris swings a massive axe right at the prince. Michael is completely blindsided, realizing that the commander he trusted is actually here to take his head. Michael barely manages to hold his ground as a heavy blow smashes into his defense. The realization hits him hard as he asks if his attacker is actually one of the rebels. Standing over the wreckage of the ship deck, the masked killer keeps his cool. He mocks Michael by saying there's no need to rush because they have all the time in the world. Michael refuses to back down and vows to punish anyone who dares to stand against the Empire. Dioris just laughs and mocks the power of the ice magic sword. Michael triggers a technique called Ice Rush, sending a wave of frozen shards across the deck. The masked fighter leaps back with a laugh, finding the whole struggle exciting. Michael closes the gap and tells him to just die already. The speed of the masked man is on another level as he easily dances around the ice shards. He slams Michael into the ground with a brutal stomp. He glares at the shocked officer nearby and tells her to get out of his way. Michael channels all his power into a single desperate move. He unleashes a massive barrage of ice shards to pin down his target. A massive explosion of ice levels everything on the deck. Despite taking a direct hit, the masked freak just smiles through the pain and admits that it actually hurts. Michael is left in shock as his strongest attack fails to put his enemy down. Michael is pushed to the limit as a massive blast rocks the deck. He wipes blood from his face, realizing he is dealing with a straight-up monster. The ship cabin starts shaking violently as the fight rages on above. The crew is left in shock, wondering what kind of madness is tearing their vessel apart. Michael demands to know if they are under attack, but the guards are doing their best to keep him inside. They claim there is no problem and insist he stays put. The tension is thick as the guards exchange silent looks. That roar was definitely not part of the plan, but they keep their mouths shut to avoid a panic. Michael tries to turn the tide by calling out his ice chains. The masked killer just laughs in his face, finding the whole struggle more entertaining than a threat. Lady Ryan enters the chat and lets everyone know the assassin has run out of luck. She unleashes her strongest binding spell to finally put the intruder in his place. With the target finally captured, the immediate threat is neutralized. Ryan does not waste any time and orders her men to keep him tied up and under constant watch. Dioris just laughs in their faces, knowing the Empire still has a use for him. Lady Ryan does not care for his attitude and orders her men to lock him down in a high-security cell where he can be watched at all times. General Alarcon makes it clear that he has no room for trash in his path. Once they hit Imperial soil, he plans to throw the captured assassin straight before a military tribunal. Suspecting a rat in the ranks, the general orders a total sweep for any other spies. His command is cold and absolute, and he wants his men to find the accomplices and put down anyone who tries to resist. Down in the brig, Shin and Iris find themselves face to face with the chained-up assassin. Dioris finds it hilarious that they also got bagged by Lady Ryan, laughing at their shared misfortune. Shin ignores the mockery and starts analyzing the situation, figuring out that the binding magic requires physical contact to activate. Dioris just continues to gloat, not realizing our boy is already planning his next move. With a chilling intensity in his gaze, Dioris drops a curveball. He wants to know if they are willing to work together. He frames it as a win-win deal to end the war for good. In exchange for his freedom, he promises to deliver the heads of both Lady Ryan and General Alarcon, leaving Shin and Iris in shock. Iris is not having it, shouting a hard pass on any cooperation with the man who tried to kidnap the princess. She points a finger at the frozen Dioris, reminding Shin that letting this guy walk would put the princess in serious danger. Shin stays quiet as Iris begs him to just walk away, convinced they cannot trust a word from a masked killer. Dioris tries to play nice from inside his icy tomb, promising that he will not lay a single hand on the princess if they let him out. Dioris just laughs off her suspicions, dropping a cold line about betrayal being a woman's favorite trick. Shin smirks right back, reminding the guy that he was already backstabbed once before, so maybe he shouldn't be the one talking. Iris loses her mind at the idea of trusting him, but Shin is totally chill about the whole thing. He holds out his hand and asks Iris to hand over the secret medicine he gave her earlier, clearly ready to make a move. Not wasting a second, Shin pours a potent liquid onto the block of ice, causing it to sizzle and melt instantly. Even Dioris is caught off guard by the sheer power of the Apothecary's concoction as the frozen prison starts to crumble. Dioris shatters the remaining ice with a laugh, impressed by the quality of the medicine that just set him free. Shin explains that he kept this ice-melting medicine ready, just in case someone tried to put him on ice during the mission. Now that Dioris is free, Shin wonders if the Empire left the medicine on him because they did not think it was a threat. Dioris leans back in the cell, calling the Empire fools for underestimating the power of a simple apothecary's tools. Shin knows this jailbreak isn't going to be a walk in the park. He realizes the Empire left an opening on purpose, and the second he tries to bounce, it's game over. The perimeter is crawling with snipers hiding in the trees and on the roofs. One wrong move and our boy is getting turned into a literal pincushion. Iris can't believe they are trapped, but Dioris just shrugs it off, saying they are at a dead end. She tries to press the masked man to use his rank to get them out, but he reminds her that his entire squad was wiped out by that scary deputy commander. Just as things look bleak, Shin drops a casual flex. He's already got backup moving in from the shadows. The skewer cook finally shows up and Shin greets him like he's just spotting a friend at the grocery store. The old man is losing his mind that Dioris is part of the squad, while Iris tries to explain that the masked guy is a total loose cannon. Shin gives a confident thumbs up, claiming they have a way to keep their new masked friend on a leash. He dumps the responsibility right onto the old man's shoulders, leaving the cook completely stressed out. Dioris laughs, admitting his neck is still sore from the last time they tangled. The cook isn't in the mood for jokes, clenching his fist and offering to serve up another beatdown with his remaining arm. Prince Michael introduces himself as the third heir of the Empire, but the Imperial officer admits he brought the royal here without permission. Shin remains professional, offering a formal bow to show respect for the high-ranking guest. In a shocking move, the prince offers a desperate apology for failing to stop the conflict. He is clearly carrying a heavy weight of guilt over the damage done to the country Almesia loves. The frustration is real as the royal admits that his own lack of power makes him furious. Shin breaks the tension with a comforting gesture and a sharp, calculating grin. He tells the prince that if he feels bad, he just needs to grind even harder from now on to make things right. The rest of the crew is left speechless by the sheer audacity of Shin's casual talk with royalty. Not missing a beat, our boy turns to Iris and the old man to tell them their skills are required for the next phase of the plan. The prince is left blinking in confusion, thrown off by the sudden shift in energy. Louis admits they have hit a dead end, and the Imperial army is seemingly unstoppable. He looks to Shin as a last resort, asking if there is any possible way left to turn the tide. A sharp smirk spreads across his face as he gives a simple yes. He is officially ready to teach the Empire a lesson they will never forget. That's it for today, guys. If you made it to the end, drop a W in the comments so I know you're real ones. Don't forget to like and subscribe, it really helps the channel grow. Until then, keep on cooking.